89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on the 11 o'clock hour of BPR, live from the BPL. We'll start the show with a check-in on the kids. With another murder captured on video and shown on social media again and again and again, are the kids all right? How are you talking to your kids about political violence? In the words of Charlie Kirk, please call or text.
I'm Marjorie Egan. We'll check in with the Culture Show's Jared Bowen on the death of leading man Robert Redford, his takeaways from the Emmy Awards, and arts around the region. All that ahead, the 11 o'clock hour at BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The former head of the CDC is testifying before a Senate panel on Capitol Hill at this hour. Susan Menares, who was ousted from the agency in August, is speaking publicly for the first time since her removal. In her opening statement, Menares said Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pressured her to take actions that she believed were inconsistent with her oath of office.
He directed me to commit in advance to approving every ACIP recommendation, regardless of the scientific evidence. He also directed me to dismiss career officials responsible for vaccine policy without cause. He said if I was unwilling to do both, I should resign.
Secretary Kennedy has denied those claims. Menares concluded her opening remarks with a warning about the future of public health and the nation's path forward. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce its first cut in interest rates in 9 months. NPR's Scott Horsley reports despite elevated inflation in the U.S. economy, the central bank is concerned about a slowdown in hiring.
Investors are betting the Fed will lower its benchmark rate by a 0.25 percentage point. That would make it slightly cheaper to get a car loan, bankroll a business expansion, or carry a balance on your credit card. Policymakers will also update their forecast of how many more rate cuts we might expect before the end of the year. The central bank has held rates steady since December, partly out of concern that President Trump's tariffs will rekindle inflation. Consumer prices in August were up 2.9% from a year ago. That worry is likely outweighed now, though, by the sharp slowdown in hiring. By cutting interest rates, the Fed hopes to keep a lid on unemployment. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The U.S. House has passed a bill that would allow 14-year-olds in Washington, D.C. to be charged as adults for certain violent crimes. The legislation now goes to the Senate, where it faces challenges. NPR's Kristen Wright reports the change would mean stricter penalties.
The legislation lowers the age that juveniles in D.C. can be tried as adults from 16 to 14 for certain violent crimes like murder and armed robbery. U.S. Attorney for the district, Jeanine Pirro, has criticized city officials as too soft on young offenders. Several House Democrats joined Republicans in voting for the measure. It's part of a package of bills in Congress targeting crime in D.C. and imposing the federal government's control over the district. President Trump has recently said he could take over the D.C. Police Department again, and National Guard troops still patrol the city. He's deploying troops in Memphis, where FBI data show crime is high. Trump has suggested similar actions in other cities led by black Democrats. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser will testify before a House committee tomorrow. Kristen Wright, NPR News, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up 299 points. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell has joined forces with her counterparts in nearly 24 states as they make a move to get the National Guard off the streets of Washington, D.C. In a brief filed yesterday in federal court in our nation's capital, Campbell and her colleagues argue that the Trump administration's decision to deploy troops without the consent of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is unlawful, unconstitutional, and undemocratic. Officials with the Boston Legacy Football Club say they have the financing needed to build its portion of White Stadium in Franklin Park. The Globe reports the Bank of America will finance more than $100 million for the project, with the city of Boston financing some as well. The team hopes to play in its new home as soon as 2027. And it was on this day 238 years ago, September 17th, 1787, our founding fathers signed America's governing document known as the Constitution of the United States. And to this day, the Constitution remains the supreme law of the U.S. It's the foundation and source of the legal authority underlying the existence of the United States of America and the federal government of the United States. Also gave John Hancock a chance to show off his fancy penmanship when he added his ornate signature to the document that he helped create. In sports, Red Sox no longer in second place in the wild card race. They are in third. They play Game 2 of their series with the A's tonight at Fenway. It's a 6:45 start. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Doris Duke Foundation, which aims to support the well-being of people and the planet for a more creative, equitable, and sustainable future, and listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Hey, it's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by Ambassador Nick Burns, State Auditor Diana DeZaglio. We're going to talk to her about question 1, you're the one to audit the legislature. And we're going to talk to the leads from this great new play, The Hills of California, September 23rd. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be joining us at the library. And on September 30th, the governor, Maura Healey, will join us also at the library. And we are back in Boston. We had a great time up at NEPM in Springfield. Great people, great station, great work they do up there. But we're thrilled to be back here at the library, Jim.
We are, even though there was an evacuation this morning.
There
about
was.
15 minutes ago, right before the show. Apparently, it was a fire department fire drill. A lot of you who were kind enough to come to see the show left and have not come back.
Oh.
It is safe to... No, you came back.
I came back.
It is
yes,
safe to come back to the library anytime during the next 3 hours. Plus, is this Wednesday? Yes, it is. Jared's show, Culture Show, is live here following us at 2 o'clock, so please come on back. We're going to start with more Charlie Kirk, a fallout, another angle. Kirk asked people to debate him on what were the wedge issues of our modern politics, the things designed to stir emotionally and highlight our differences. He lauded free speech while targeting professors with his professor watch list at Turning Point USA. He criticized the intellect of a handful of prominent black women in particular, and he thought women should submit to their husbands, on and on. We've gone down the list. The news coverage around Charlie Kirk's murder has been nonstop, and we know why. He was a massive figure for Trump's version of the GOP, a young, socially media-savvy debater who was killed in broad daylight in public, and the video was widely distributed online. More than 40 million views of the actual assassination of Charlie Kirk were seen on social media in just hours after the killing. And chances are, if you've got a teenager in the house, obviously with access to the internet, they knew more about Charlie Kirk and his positions, good and bad, and have probably seen the assassination on a loop over and over and over again. So our number is 877-301-8097. Kids dealing with the rhetorical debate about the rhetoric of Charlie Kirk and about the violence itself. We assume they have seen the video many times. And how you're dealing with your kids about those issues, who Charlie Kirk was, the fact that many people, including those of us on the show, are saying you should mourn his death for his family and the country, but you don't need to celebrate his life and what he had to say. How are you dealing with your kids, and how are your kids dealing with this? 877-301-8970. At our staff meeting this morning, we have a new intern from BU School of Journalism. Mira mentioned it's not the first time. We all saw George Floyd murdered repeatedly.
Yes,
Eric Garner in Staten Island.
The guy selling cigarettes who said he couldn't breathe.
On and on and on. And then you said something when we left the staff meeting, and you said, you know, people of a certain age, us, saw Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy who assassinated JFK, murdered by Jack Ruby, but then both of us almost simultaneously said, we may have seen it once, we may have seen it twice. It wasn't available for us to watch or in our faces non-stop 24/7 for days.
The other point that was made by these, the so-called experts, the psychologists that weigh in on the damages it's doing to children, point out that if you saw Lee Harvey Oswald get shot, and you probably saw it live on television because the whole nation was in their den with the little black and white TV.
That's a very good point.
You were probably with your parents and your family members. So when you saw those horrors of years and years ago, when we were kids, you saw them with your families, and you saw the news maybe in the morning and maybe again at 6 o'clock at night. But these children probably saw these things when they were alone on their phone. They weren't with their parents. They were seeing it on their phone, and they, as people have pointed out, saw it over and over and over again. They saw it in slow motion, and they saw it kind of nonstop. So that was one of the big differences, the relentlessness of this, and the 24-hour news cycle, social media cycle. The governor of Utah,
Spencer Cox.
Yes, called social media a cancer on society right now. And basically what these stories say about what to do about this, the best thing to do is to keep your children off social media, but I don't think that's possible.
That's laughable. With all due, exactly, it's not possible. You're not going to be able to do that. That's not really a solution. You said something, you have an obsession with Mark Zuckerberg as well. You should. You made a point to me this morning that I hadn't remembered, that about a decade ago he promised he was going to hire 10,000 staff people
that's right,
to police, not in an anti-free speech way, but violence and things like this on Facebook. And the point was made in the story you referenced that none of the social media companies, other than Elon Musk on behalf of Twitter, who is villainizing, of course, the other side, a la Vance and a la Trump, none of the social media titans are saying a word about this.
Well, in January, Mark Zuckerberg did say something. He said he was no longer going to fact check anything.
Right, exactly.
So this drives me insane.
This is not just about fact checking, though.
Well, that's what he said. He was going to no longer do this monitoring of
But having
Facebook.
an assassination in slow motion on your social media empire is a little bit different situation than fact checking.
Right, but the thing that kills me about, and I'm not an engineer. I don't understand how you would do these things, but in newspapers or on television or on so-called legacy media, if you tell a lie or with malice aforethought, even if it's about a public figure, you get sued, you get in trouble, you get hauled into court. They are exempt from this, and all these websites. They're exempt from this. They should be liable for the same way newspapers are liable. And I reject the argument that they can't do it because they make so much money that. Could they hire 10,000 people to do this? Yes, they could. They don't want to. It's expensive. They don't want to bother.
I know you feel that way, but I don't think the issue around Kirk since last week is about lies. Some people hear, if I may, some people hear what he say and believed, as Michael Curry said yesterday, his speech was repugnant almost all the time. J.D. Vance, for example, tried when he hosted Kirk's podcast to say the nation got it all wrong about what he said about about black women, and what he was doing was technically the nation did get the reference wrong, but in fact what he said about 4 prominent black women, including Michelle Obama, was just as grievous as.
But it's not just lies. Did you see?
Well, can I finish this though?
Okay.
So it's opinions about what he had to say, and secondly, the violence is not a lie. It is as real gets. So what do you do about them there?
Well, did you see the blood spurting from Charlie Kirk's neck on channels, the network stations, or on CNN or on Fox?
You're going to wait a second. You're going to crack down with statutes against social media for portraying violence with laws?
Well, Jim.
It's not illegal, by the way, for a newspaper to link to it.
Why didn't all these stations show it on television?
Well, they use judgment, but
exactly.
No, wait, Marjorie.
Exactly.
You're talking about passing laws. You want a law in place?
I didn't say.
Yes, you did.
That's about the lies. I didn't say we had to have a law about violence, but I think we need to have a little judgment about the kind of thing that you should.
But you can't legislate judgment. If they choose to show it, they're entitled to show it.
If all the networks can do it, if all of cable can do it,
they don't want to do it.
They move this off. They move the blood spurting video. It wasn't.
They don't want to do it.
They did do it.
I'm saying the social media companies could do it.
Well,
you're right. They choose not to do it.
Because we all sit here like potted plants and say it's fine, and we'll just spend all our day on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and X.
So if you want to talk about the tech companies, that's fine. We also want to talk about how your kids are handling all this and how you are handling your kids if you're doing anything. Do you have a prescription for trying to minimize the amount of violence that they are treated to nonstop and whatever algorithm is attached? 01-897. I have to say, other than, I think you used this word, but I know this is what you meant. Other than social media companies acting responsibly, which they will not do.
Why do we accept that is the answer, that they won't do it?
Why would they do it? If it turns out it gets them more clicks.
Because social media companies are relatively new. I think people don't, listen to this.
Why would they do it? Explain why they do it.
Public pressure.
Why?
Public pressure. I think there has to be more public. Listen to this. Childhood mental health problems rose steadily between 2010 and 2020, with suicide becoming the second leading cause of death for 10-year-olds in 2018. And there is a broad consensus that social media is fueling this troubling trend.
So you think they should do it because they're responsible public citizens?
I think
because there were 40 million views in, I think, 2 hours of the Kirk assassination, which means good business for social media companies.
Yeah.
So you think they have to do it because they're responsible citizens?
I sort of think that Cox is right. This is a cancer.
It is.
On the United States of America. And I guess we can just sit here and say there's nothing we can do about it, or we can try to do something about it. I mean, it's the same thing with guns. How many guns are there in America? There are more guns than there are people. So do we just say we're going to give up on the guns?
No, but I would say that while we're waiting for Congress to do responsible gun reform, while we're waiting for Zuckerberg and Tim Apple, as Trump used to call them, to do the responsible thing on social media, it's up to us individually to do the most responsible things we can do. You are right. We should put pressure on the gun lobby, put pressure on Congress, put pressure on and while we're doing it, since most of us, not all of us, can walk and chew gum at the same time, the issue for the next few minutes is what do we do in the interim, particularly with young people who are much more affected by this, as you mentioned, around the suicide rate issue, than adults are, even though it's not easy for adults either.
Again, the so-called experts say that very young children obviously should not be seeing this stuff at all, and that you have older children, teenagers, kids that can get around whatever rules you're putting there and see this stuff, that there needs to be some mothers and fathers talking to their children about this and trying to put it in perspective and say that these things are horrible and they're right to feel this PTSD after seeing these things, and they're right to be upset about it, but their parents are going to keep them safe, even though, as we know, that's not really true either, because your parents can't keep you safe.
Well, I'm going to read one fairly long anonymous texter, and then we're going to get right to your calls, we promise. I'm an athletic coach for a high school, and the day after the shooting, I pulled the team close and spoke to what I know they all saw, that it's okay if you're struggling, that violence is not the answer, and to talk with me, another coach, or someone else you trust. All eyes were 100% on me, and you could hear a pin drop. They're struggling. And scarily, they're becoming more and more numb to this as each day goes by. This all needs to stop, especially the horrible rhetoric after the fact. We need to stop the blame game, work together, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he acted like an adult and called kids who trust him and trust him.
And the end of it is what he said, this entire generation that is growing up with social media that reports the news so quickly and without the afterthought of what it does to the public, it needs to be corrected.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody agrees, but we're just not going to get there right away. So in the interim, we have to do some variation on what that coach did with his players. Let's go to Tim and Lynn. You've been very patient. You're first on BPR. Welcome to the show, Tim. Hi.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk about, you guys discussed what you see about Charlie Kirk and stuff, and what I'm afraid is that we all see different algorithms.
Yeah.
The critical stuff I see isn't what floats across mine, but that doesn't mean that's not what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be impossible to come to a consensus if we're both being fed different information.
Well, I don't agree with that. If I may, to quote Spencer Cox, what was his line? We have to disagree better. And I think we can have different perspectives and strongly disagree on whether the work of Charlie Kirk was or not, and but agree to do it in a way that doesn't lead to violence and violent rhetoric. Don't you agree, Tim?
I agree to a point, but if I'm seeing incorrect information, like if my algorithm is just pumping
I see.
all the good thoughts that he's saying, I'm not going to be able to
That's a good point.
understand your side of the thing because this is just honesty. I'm not political, but all the stuff I see from him, it seems inspirational. And then when I listen online, I hear all this other talk, but I don't see that across my algorithm.
That's a very good point.
Well, Tim, it's a brilliant point because that is another big problem. And again, I'm not an engineer. I can barely read my email, so I'm not the person that's going to tell you how to fix these things. But we talked about during the election how if you said you were a pro-Joe Biden person, that the algorithms would change so dramatically during the week that by the end of the week, you would be hearing all this unbelievably horrible stuff about Donald Trump. Maybe some of it was true, maybe it wasn't. If you said you were a pro-Trump person, the same thing would happen. The algorithms that are directed to people radicalize people. Now, is there nothing we can do about that? I think there is.
Well, but part of the problem, I mean, what Tim is talking about is what Kellyanne Conway said for the first time on Meet the Press, hosted by, at the time, Chuck Todd, when she used the term that caused everybody to fall over, alternative facts. Right. I mean, what Tim is talking about is not just different points of view. That's where I misspoke when I was responding. He's saying when people have totally different retelling of the same set of facts, and that is really difficult. What do you do about that?
Well,
people shouldn't be allowed to post something that they, for whatever reasons, because they watch Fox News, believe is true. We should censor that because it's actually not true.
I'm not saying we should censor it, Jim, but I think we should do a much better job in pointing out that there is no such thing as alternative facts. The sky is either blue or it's red. I think we know what the answer is, and that's the problem. We don't, and we in the media don't do it enough either. Point out when Donald Trump is lying.
I mean, corrections and things.
Yeah, I mean, we were well through his first term before people began to say he's lying. We couldn't.
That's true.
We always said it was a misstatement. It was a misstatement. But again, this happened so quickly that I think we're kind of flummoxed. We don't know exactly what to do about it. But I think we're realizing now that the damage.
Okay, so let me pick an example. Since we mentioned the comments he made about brain power of people like Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I can't remember who the fourth person was who he disparaged. Let's assume someone puts up on Twitter, I've read everything that he had to say. He had great respect for black women. You can't tell me, based upon one comment he may have made, that he didn't care deeply about black women leaders in this country. We take that down? I would argue it's factually wrong.
You mean his talking about the brain power of these women?
No, no. A person just posts that my opinion, I've read everything he ever had to say about black women.
Opinions are different than facts.
Well, that is a statement of fact that he never said anything bad about black women. I don't buy that. What do you do about that?
Well, I think it's not a fact.
What do I do? What do you do about it? Take it down?
Take down what he said?
No, take down what a poster said when he said he has always been responsible and full of praise for black women. We say that's...
I think you're kind of being ridiculous
Why?
here. No, you don't take that down. What you want to do is make sure that facts remain facts. That people who... It's just like newspapers do it. It's just like responsible television stations do it. It's not that hard.
I think it's really hard. In any case, in the interim...
I think it's hard because the richest people in the world, the richest, second richest, I guess the guy from Oracle is richer this week than
Allison,
Elon Musk is.
He is.
The guy that's the richest man in the world is not going to hire enough people because it's going to cut into his profits.
That's correct. You're
to
right.
make sure that what is on X is responsible. Mark Zuckerberg, who is also one of the richest men in the world, billionaires, that they don't want to hire the people to monitor what they're putting online. I don't believe them when they say they can't do it.
Here's Cheryl in Norwell. A lot of tech people agree with you, including a number of our texters, that they do have the capacity to, should they choose to. They're just, again, I say there's no incentive when you have so many millions of hits in a second. That's advantageous to them when all they care about is the bottom line. Cheryl in Norwell says, my greater fear is not that, quote, children, whatever age we choose to define, they're upset by the images. My fear is they're so desensitized that they're not upset by it. It's terrifying for our future, which I think is a very, very good point. It's almost nonstop.
Yeah, no, that is a very good point. But it is interesting how many people seem to at least voice their upset with watching the gruesome photographs of the blood coming out of Charlie Kirk's neck.
But they did it, didn't they?
Pardon me?
But they did it, didn't they? They watched it, didn't they?
They did watch it, and some people watch it over it again. But I think we don't know about the people who saw it once and then just turned it off and couldn't watch again. And I like to think that that's still the majority, although that's just an opinion of mine, Jim. It's not a fact.
Eric in Waltham, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yes. So I work with middle school through college-age kids as a mental health counselor.
Oh, good.
I'll make 3 points. So
Please.
4 of them independently mentioned the murder, and they all saw it. There were 2 things. One is I could immediately tell what their political persuasion is, and I don't talk about that, by how they framed it, because in their world, they get it all from social media, and it's just doing what social media does, is it drives them down their red or blue lane when they say that. The second point is that they are inured to the violence. So you and I see this, Jim or Marjorie, and we're kind of horrified. They've seen this thousands of times. So the younger ones are affected by it. The older ones are not, because they've been desensitized to it. And the third point I'd make is I absolutely am in Marjorie's camp about social media. Give 14, 15, 16-year-olds unlimited packs of cigarettes and say, go smoke them. And it has the same impact on it. So these tech companies, the 5 largest companies in the world, have untold sums of money to drive engagement and enragement. And there's no question to me that all of the shooters, the political shooters we've seen, had it not been for going down the rabbit hole of social media, would not have done that, because that's what it does to the brain. And the brain science about that is so clear. I think Mark Zuckerberg does not care at all. I tell everybody, go listen to Frances Haugen's testimony.
I'm so
before
glad
Congress.
you brought...
Woman who worked at Facebook to testify
tell people
in front
what
of Congress.
she said, Eric, about Facebook.
She said Facebook knew very clearly the damage that their algorithms were doing, and they buried it.
Yeah. Again, it just underscoring
Eric,
the fact
that was a great call.
that they
Thank you.
could do something if they wanted to do something. That was a big deal.
But that's where we're parting ways. I agree with the two of you. They could do something, but I repeat, they don't want to do something because people view this and apparently want to view this.
This gets back to our passivity, though. I mean, we're watching, all this terrible stuff about climate. Are we doing something? Well, Bill McKibben's having his big march on the 21st. Maybe people will go. I think it's the 21st. People may go to that. We're pretty passive as a country, and we got to decide what we want. And I don't know that enough of us want to take up the torch. Anyway, we're talking about social media and young children and teenagers and what they saw of the horrible, horrible pictures of the murder of Charlie Kirk. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Tallest bridge spans the Huajiang Grand Canyon in China. Despite the rugged terrain and remote location, constructing that bridge was a gift to the local economy.
It's basically China's stimulus checks.
It took only 3 years to build, and now it is ready to open. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Damore McKim School of Business at Northeastern University, where MBA and master's degree students can build vital business skills through experience. Learn more at northeastern.edu/business. And Minus 33 Merino Wool in Ashland, New Hampshire. Since 1916, makers of all-natural merino wool underwear, outerwear, and New Hampshire-made socks. Their merino wool clothing and accessories are available at minus33.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, the lines are open. We're talking about how your kids are reacting and how you're reacting to your kids in terms of what they're seeing on social media. The violence, obviously the assassination of Charlie Kirk all over the place, even in slow motion. The debate back and forth about the rhetoric and positions of Charlie Kirk, how you're dealing with it. And we ended up also including the conversation about what the tech companies should do. I think there's a consensus they should do something, but I guess where Marty and I disagree is that I think they never will, because it's profitable to promote things that cause pain in this country.
Well, maybe if so many of their parents weren't spending their days on TikTok and Instagram and X,
point.
then the kids wouldn't do it. Maybe if you treated picking up smoking like, picking up X like if did smoking, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. Maybe if we stopped dilly-dallying and banned phones in schools, you know what? Those kids wouldn't have seen that, because it happened during the day.
It's about to happen in Massachusetts, maybe.
Well, yeah,
we'll
maybe.
see what the House of Representatives has to say.
Isn't that ridiculous? They can't agree on that. But had everybody schools been banned, I think he was murdered shortly after noontime, wasn't it? In time out there. Some people would have seen it after school, but some people would have been in school and they wouldn't have seen it, and they might have seen it. And one of the texters makes a good point. We knew back in the 50s how bad smoking was, and the smoking companies lied, of course, just as the oil companies are lying now, and just as Donald Trump is lying about climate change now. So it took us a long time to do anything about smoking. Remember, we thought, my God, can you possibly ban smoking in a bar?
Remember the AGs got together? They had this litigation,
Yeah.
and ultimately it was a deal. Nicole, our colleague, has an interesting point she just posted. I asked my 14-year-old sister if any adult at her school addressed what had happened. She said only one did. I'm disappointed. I had hoped teachers would address and create a space where the kids can talk about what they're thinking, since they're seeing it everywhere. If there's a teacher out there, or if there's a teacher online, let's take them. And in the interim...
Excuse me.
Sure.
That's a great point. And it's a great point because I would suspect many teachers are afraid of even bringing it up, because there have been teachers fired, you may know, for their social media posts about what they had to say about this. So you're walking on eggs saying something.
Great point.
Anyway, John...
Westford.
John from
Hey, John,
Westford.
how are you? Good to talk to you.
Good. How are you?
Good.
I think the kids are going to be okay, and that's the scary thing.
Yeah.
They'll be okay watching in slow motion of color footage of this horrific thing.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that, John?
I think the social media and just staring at the phone all 24/7, it's made them numb. There's a disconnect to reality.
Except
and there's no empathy.
Except, John, what you read all the time is that the mental health crisis has taken off exponentially, and it's coincided in some people's opinions or facts or their research, whatever they've done, with the prevalence of iPhones. The idea that you can see everything so quickly. So
that's part of the Jonathan Haidt thing,
that whole book about the anxious generation was documenting the impact of social media and iPhones on mental health. But anyway,
go ahead, John.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. They feed off of it, and their algorithm just feeds into this. If you look at this shooter, he was a member of Armed Queers of Salt Lake, and it's a
I have to say,
I didn't know about that.
I didn't know about that either, but go ahead, John.
It's actually a pretty big thing. Elizabeth Warren actually met with him, so it's not just a small group of people.
What's the point, though?
The point is that we get in our own little minds, in our own little chat groups, and we need to teach the kids that these short little blips of cut speeches and stuff, it's not reality. They need to be taught to look at the full picture. I
understand. Hey, John, just before you go, though, why'd you bring up, we neither of us knew, why'd you bring up his, what you say was his membership in whatever it was, Armed Queers of Salt? What does that have to do with anything?
Oh, just to show how these chat groups, not that it's a chat group, but whatever the forum is called nowadays, it does feed on themselves. But if they watch something like Gavin Newsom. But
before you go, with all due respect, John, you just said you don't know anything about the group. So with all due respect, you're a good caller.
No. I said I don't know what they call the chat group. I don't know what the forum is called.
But you don't.
Yeah, I'm seeing stories. I'm seeing.
Gavin Newsom.
Go ahead, John.
Gavin Newsom has a podcast, and if you listen to when he had Charlie Kirk on, Charlie Kirk sat down with Gavin Newsom, and they talked for about an hour, and everybody should listen to the unedited version of the two of them.
John, I hear you. I haven't watched it, but let me just say, I have spent most of the last 5 days researching as meticulously as I possibly can what Charlie Kirk had to say about women, about abortion, about black women, about Muslims. And I have to say, again, I haven't seen that hour with Newsom, but if that was a positive hour, that was an outlier, at least in my opinion. John, as always, thank you for your call.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
You know, the people that are reporting this about this this group, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, is the New York Post and the Washington Examiner, both of which are conservative papers. But what even they are saying is that this armed collective of leftist LGBTQ activists is reportedly under federal investigation as authorities probe far-left Utah groups and others operating online. So,
whose word is far left, by the way? Who's that?
Well, that is from the Washington Examiner,
Well, exactly.
which is a conservative newspaper. I'm not seeing it
well, why don't we ignore it?
a place that I trust.
Until we hear again.
But John could be right. He could be right.
And for John, feel free, if you have more substantiation of that or a different interpretation, email us at bpr@wgbh.org. Kristen and Upton, you have 30 seconds. Sorry, we're running low on time. Welcome.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yep, quickly, please.
Okay, so first time, long time.
Thank
My
you.
son is 13, and he told me that he saw the assassination on social media, and I told him, don't watch it again. I haven't seen it. And I knew who Charlie Kirk was before he was assassinated, but it never showed up in my social media and my feed, but it showed up in my 13-year-old's feed, which I found really surprising. That
Before you go, we're out of time. Did he listen to you and not watch it again, as far as you know?
Yes.
Good.
He listened to
And
me.
it's great that your kid went to you and said that he'd seen it. That's a good relationship. Kristen, thanks for the call. Sorry, we're out of
his
time.
feed is crucial because
Of
for something on his feed led them to put this information
As compared
on
to his
the
mother's,
child's feed
right.
as opposed to the mother. Exactly. Okay, coming up after a quick break, the Culture Show's Jared Bowen is going to join us. He's going to talk about the Emmys, the career of Robert Redford, who just passed away, and this Joy Behar's new play on divorce. Jared Bowen next. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library.
Your home for trusted local news. GBH 89.7.
Bringing you the stories you need to know.
Keeping you informed on the news shaping Boston and your neighborhood.
With unique analysis and perspectives that give you the full picture.
GBH News. Online at gbhnews.org. Streaming on the GBH app. And always on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Pro Arte Chamber Orchestra, presenting Sweet Love, Wild Dance, with works by Mozart and Ginastera, Sunday, September 21st at 3 at Sanders Theater. Info at proarte.org. And Moderna. mNEXSpike, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA by Moderna, is available. Pharmacists can help with any questions about mNEXSpike.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy, Mardragan, live from the library, streaming youtube.com/GBHnews. Tomorrow, former ambassador to China, Nick Burns, he's been involved in foreign affairs his whole career. State Auditor Diana DeZoglio is going to respond to what the Attorney General had to say yesterday about question 1, auditing the legislature. And the lead players from the hills of California, and the players were brilliant. Marjorie and I saw actually a dress rehearsal the other day. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Pretty neat.
September 3rd at the library, the mayor is here, Mayor Wu, for an hour, and September 30th, the governor is here for an hour at the library. And so we're going to leave misery behind, at least until 12 o'clock. We're joined now for the next fairly joyful time at the library with Jared Bowen. Jared is GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show. I don't know if they're applauding for Joy or for Jared. In any case,
Jared.
It airs on Saturdays at 7 p.m. What's that?
It's one and the same.
It is the same, exactly. At 7 p.m. on 88.5 NEPM and daily right after BPR and 89.7 GBH. Today, the Culture Show is in person at the library, so stick around. As I say, if you were here for the evacuation, for the fire drill or whatever it was at 15 minutes before showtime and left, please come back everything is safe. Hello, Jared.
Hello, great to be with you.
How are you?
Hello, Jared Bowen. So let's start with a clip from the 1969 movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance
69?
Kid. Yeah, 1969. We're old, Jim. Starring Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Here it is. Okay.
This was in the silent film era.
Okay, here it comes. It's coming.
Would you make a jump like that and you didn't have to? I have to, and I'm not gonna. Well, we got to, otherwise we're dead. We got to. Nope. Get away from me. Why? I want to fight them. They'll kill us. Maybe. You want to die? Do you? All right, I'll jump first. No. Then you jump first. No, I said. What's the matter with you? I can't swim. Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Can I just say something? I remember that scene. It was a fabulous scene. It does not translate well at all if you haven't seen it to sound alone.
Yeah, they're trying to get away from the law, the long hand of the law, in this case, the long hooves of all the lawmen that were chasing after them, and they decided to jump off this huge cliff. If you haven't seen that movie, it holds up well. It's great.
Does, yeah.
But tell us about Robert Redford's impact, though. So many movies. So many movies, so good looking, so much life, such an impact that even at 89, when I saw that flash across my email yesterday from the New York Times update, I could not believe it because it just seems impossible that Robert Redford could be gone. But he had the most extraordinary life if you look at everything he did, which was growing up in California, lost his mom at a pretty young age. By his account, became kind of guided by misdeeds and misbehaving and drinking and joining gangs in California, and then goes to Europe and studies art, actually, comes to New York, becomes a set designer, and that's when he happens upon an audition and starts to move his way onto the stage, and very quickly the TV people find him, and then he's on Broadway and Barefoot in the Park and Neil Simon. With Jane Fonda, paying his dues, basically, learning how to act, learning timing, learning all of these great things, and then, of course, that rocketed him forth into films, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, one of his first major pictures that would change his life forever, and then he kept changing his life, because not just ready to rest on his laurels and his looks, he felt so passionately about the West, and somebody who lived in Utah for much of his life, well before he became a huge star. That's, of course, where he invested in Sundance and started to become a climate activist, although apparently he hated the word activist, but he used his platform for change in terms of moving independent film forward and drawing attention to global issues.
He also never won an Academy Award as an actor, won his Academy Award as the director of Ordinary People.
Ordinary People, that was a tearjerker.
His debut as a director.
Was it?
Yeah, Mary Tyler Moore. Remember that movie? That was really sad. And Donald Sutherland. Yep. They had this couple that had this son committed suicide. It was a tearjerker. Yeah.
So is
really good, though.
Is the culture show person, was he a good actor or just a really good-looking actor in great parts? I just don't even know. I enjoyed his movies a lot. I have no idea.
No, I think both are true, and it's funny because he even addressed that throughout his career in a few different interviews, saying the looks kind of took center stage beyond everything. So people didn't this happens often, though, where people think because you're good looking, you can't possibly have the artistic merit to rise up to the good looks or something like that.
Kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I think if you look at his last film, which was All Is Lost, which is, I joked about a silent film at the beginning, but this is essentially a silent film, almost no dialogue, as he's this man who's on a boat in the middle of the ocean about to be taken down, and you see what an extraordinary actor he was there. For some reason, Hollywood often overlooked him until the director Oscar, and then he later got an honorary Oscar, but I think he was. And look at the charisma. You have to hold your own against Paul Newman, which he did twice.
Yeah.
Both there in Sundance and The Sting.
Another wonderful
Barbara
movie.
Streisand, Jane Fonda, I mean...
Meryl Streep, and Out of Africa.
Because I've read...
She's overrated, Meryl Streep, though, don't you think? Yeah.
And you know, I saw it actually on TV last night on CNN. They had Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, who, of course, were the played in All the President's Men. And I learned, I did not know this, that Robert Redford, he called up, I think he called Woodward and said he wanted to make a movie out of their book. And that's how it happened. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but if you didn't see the interview, it's a fabulous interview with Woodward Bernstein. Her old too. And Woodward is saying in the interview last night, this is Watergate for you young people, who was broken by the Washington Post with legendary Ben Bradley as editor.
Movie.
A great movie about journalists. That and Spotlight are the two to watch, clearly. And Woodward says last night to Anderson Cooper, he says, and so I talk on the phone to Robert Redford. I really didn't believe it was him when he called. We talked about it. And then I go tell Bernstein, and this is what he says last night, I turn to Woodward and say, don't tell anybody you're talking to an actor, particularly Robert Redford, while we're in the middle of this. So it's a great little historical thing updated last night on CNN. Jerry, you never met him, did you?
I never met him.
Nor did we.
No, but going back to what you were just saying, first of all, he spent his own money. He spent about $400,000 to buy the rights. That was a lot of money, of course, in the 1970s. Of course, he was a movie star by then, but that's how passionately he felt about this. But I loved what Meryl Streep and Jane Fonda and Barbara Streisand all said. I've read Barbara Streisand's memoir. I've read Jane Fonda's memoir. Spent some time with Jane Fonda for the Speaker Series, and they all speak glowingly of him and what a collaborator he was, how mindful he was. There was an artistic push and pull in the most constructive ways, but some people say that he was a very interior person. This is the reason he removed himself to Utah so he could be far away from the Hollywood scene, but they also talk about what a wonderful man he was.
Yeah, I was a big fan of his. Who could not be a big fan of his? I mean, my God. Just one look, that.
See, at least you're honest, Marjorie.
Well, I mean, he was gorgeous.
You were talking about
gorgeous.
this morning, since Marjorie's being honest, to show you that I'm just as superficial as she is.
Yep.
We were talking about who is better looking, Robert Redford or Paul Newman.
Paul Newman.
So, how about that?
Paul Newman aged better.
He did.
Well, they both aged pretty well.
You think so? I think Paul Newman really.
Okay, let's move on. So the Emmys. Let me
he
tell you.
also had a beard.
Remember?
We're going to talk about beards later in the show.
Paul Newman did the Hudsucker Proxy late in life, and there was a scene with him shirtless. He still had a six-pack. I think the man was in his 70s or 80s at that point.
Oh, my goodness. You want to read a good biography? Read the biography about him and Joanne Woodward. Hubba, hubba, hubba.
Okay, so as I was saying, Emmys, Sunday night. I love Nate Bargatze. I think he's one of the funniest, relatively new stars in the comedic world. That was brutal. The whole thing, I only saw excerpts, I have to say, so I shouldn't say the whole things. That running stupid joke when he says at the beginning, I'm going to donate $100,000 to the Boys and Girls Club, and for every recipient who goes over 45 seconds, we're going to deduct. Obviously, they knew it was a shtick. It was a game. But it went on endlessly. Every clip I watched had it. It was horrible. So you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, how about the award show in general?
Well, I agreed. Overall, he just didn't work as a host, I thought. I wasn't very familiar with his comedy. The only thing I really knew about him going in is that his MO is to do no harm, which is fine. Ellen DeGeneres hosted the Emmys. She was a fantastic host, never went the Ricky Gervais route to make fun of people and be sardonic. But I don't think he just didn't rise to the occasion. You always have the writers with you, or of your own intellect and comedic skills. You're coming up with snappy one-liners to follow what's happening on the stage. That didn't really follow through, too. And yeah, that bit just went so...
Well, can I say something good about him, though? I would argue the funniest 5 minutes I've seen in the last 5 years is him on SNL as George Washington speaking to the troops. If you have not seen that 5 minutes, that is as good as it gets. So Adolescence, The Studio, The Pit are the three big winners of the night. How'd you feel about that?
It was really nice to see Adolescence do so well. I think everybody knew this was going to happen. This is the film that, in case you haven't seen it yet, it's
really
very
good.
difficult to watch.
It's very difficult.
Film,
Talk about social media.
Yeah, so it's about a bunch of kids in England who are just consumed with social media, and we find one kid who's in the very first episode who's hauled away to the police station, and then in tracking shots through the subsequent 3 episodes, we follow the family's growing realization that he has participated in this brutal, brutal crime. And then I thought one of the best speeches of the night was Owen Cooper at 15 years old, the youngest male Emmy winner, standing up there and having this huge presence as a 15-year-old who only started acting a couple of years ago. You think of all of the actors who get up there and lose themselves and start weeping and can't control themselves, and here this 15-year-old has this extraordinary presence, clearly has a great career in front of him.
You know what was great about this, given our last conversation, that the adolescence takes place in Great Britain, but the kid grows up in a normal family, loving father, loving mother, loving sister, the whole thing, and he has this whole secret life that they know nothing about, which is probably happening in millions of homes across America right now.
I'm sure it was very chilling for any parent who watched and suddenly understood they don't know what's happening.
Okay, so I saw that. I saw a half hour of one episode of The Pit, and I stopped watching
Pit was really good.
because they twisted the guy's leg off in the operating room. That was enough for me.
It's a little bloody.
Even though everybody says it's great. I've never seen the studio, and everybody's raving about it. Should they be?
There are only a couple of episodes of that show that I really liked. I think this is clearly...
Is this Josh Rogan? Is that...
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, sorry.
Yeah, and who brings in an extraordinary cast. I mean, you've Greta Lee, you have Catherine O'Hara, Bryan Cranston, lots of really delicious cameos.
Bryan Cranston's a regular in this show?
He is, yeah. He plays a studio head who's completely out to lunch. He's sort of a Bob Evans-esque, but always either coked up or alcohol fused up. And so he's a mess, so he's really hamming his way through it. But I didn't love this show, and I think Hollywood did love it because it probably hits
inside baseball.
It's inside baseball.
Yeah.
It maybe hits too close to home, and they to some degree, from people I know out in L.A., said they're applauding Seth Rogen trotting a lot of this out into the open because you might have these mystical dreams of Hollywood, this land of enchantment, but that is anything but in this series, and it's still a comedy, I should say.
The president of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Patricia Harrison, got the Governor's Award on the Creative Arts Emmy. So was she on the main broadcast?
No.
No. Despite that, this is pretty significant. Here she is at the Creative Arts Emmys, which Jared says was a separate ceremony. Here it is.
Nearly 60 years ago, a bipartisan Congress, acting in the public good, created a public media system providing the American people, wherever they lived, whoever they were, with access, high-quality content, educating, inspiring, informing, for free, commercial-free. Our mission has never been more vital, and the American people are going to ensure it's going to prevail, and it's going to continue value for future generations.
There you are. Well, I'm glad they recognized her.
Correction, people point out, and they're right. I said the son of ordinary people committed suicide. I said he tried to commit suicide. He attempted, but he did not.
Okay, so we're not going to get through all three plays that you've seen, all of which we're actually pretty excited about talking about. So let's leave the one that closes the latest till next week, Primary Trust, which sounds spectacular, and do the ones that are closing earlier. You had Joy Behar, I'm very jealous, I'm a big fan, on your show the other day. In fact, let's play that. Here she is in the Culture Show, talking about a new play. She wrote it. It's called My First Ex-Husband. Here she is with Jared.
It's a comedy, but it also is very, what's the word? It has pathos, which you have to have pathos in the theater. You must. It's not like a Mel Brooks comedy. It's a dramedy because people have stories about broken marriages, but with time, there's a perspective, and the perspective allows you to have fun with it.
I love her accent. How was it?
I really enjoyed this. So this is set up a little bit differently. It's not a play as you'd normally encounter it. By the way, it's playing at the Huntington's Calderwood Pavilion through September 28th. So here you have 4 actors. My performance on Friday that I saw, it was Joy Behar, Vianne Cox, Judy Gold, and Tanya Pinkins. Jackie Hoffman, hilarious, I think is switching in for Joy Behar at some performances. Just go to the Huntington website, you'll see who is doing what when, and this is playing on weekends because of course she does The View, so she can't really be here every night. But she wrote this play a number of years ago, and over a number of years, as she began to encounter her friends who had first ex-husbands and realized the stories that were coming out of them. So she has written this play where each of the actresses on stage reads 2 monologues. They switch out. And again, they're reading on stage, so it isn't performed necessarily, but you have 4 very talented actors here on stage, and so we see them standing up there inhabiting these characters, and it's everything from a woman who found herself becoming anorexic because her husband was so controlling and how she got out of that situation, to a woman who wakes up in the middle of the night and finds her husband is dressed in women's clothing and her having to contend with that because there's a side of her husband that she didn't realize.
What's the funny part?
Well, it's exactly what Joy Behar was talking about. I mean, we all, Chuckles the Clown, we all find the humor in the darkest parts of life, and so she's able to do that. And I think she's exactly right, that yes, when you're going through these situations, they are so dramatic, they are so tough, but then as we find in the stories of these women, they look back at some of the things they did, which could be outrageous, maybe even a little bit violent at the time as they're coming to terms with their husband's bad behavior, that later becomes pretty funny. I mean, we all know stories about this.
We know many stories.
Took her husband's girlfriend's lipstick and wrote on the mirror so that he would know exactly the color of the shade on the bathroom mirror when he found it.
Pretty good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good
What do you
one.
think of her briefly? I'm always nervous. I admire her. I really think she's smart.
Oh, Joy
She's
Behar?
talented. I always worry when you interview them, you're going to be disappointed.
Me
Were
too.
you?
Not at all. She was so great. She was really, really
I'm glad to
hilarious.
hear
Her
that.
husband, whom she called Mr. Magoo because he had just had glaucoma
I
surgery,
heard
sitting
that, yeah.
right next to her.
I heard that,
You get
yeah.
a prism into their relationship. He was sitting beside her, and they kind of started talking to each other during the
Oh,
interview.
that's
So
great.
she's very happily married now, but she does have a first ex-husband.
That's at the Calderwood, the great Calderwood, till September 28th.
Okay, where are we going now?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Tell us about that.
Yes, I didn't know what to expect for this show. This is yet another example of a Broadway show that has gone the movie route and is just an adaptation. So this is now out on tour. You'll find it presented by Broadway in Boston. It's at the Emerson Colonial Theater through this weekend. It's playing through September 21st. I actually really enjoyed this. The music aside, the music isn't terrific.
It's not.
But the rest of it is in large part because of Craig Allen Smith, who plays Daniel Hillard, who becomes Euphigenia Doubtfire. So this is a story, if you haven't seen the film with Robin Williams or need a little reminder, this is a story of a man who is out of work, but he's a very talented actor, and his life kind of disintegrates. His wife divorces him, and he realizes the only way he can get in front of the children, because he's lost custody, is to take on the guise of Mrs. Doubtfire, this Scottish nanny who can then get into the home and be with the kids. And of course, that all unravels. In the film, it was Sally Field and Robin Williams and Pierce Brosnan, because the wife moves on and gets a hot British boyfriend. But Craig Allen Smith playing Mrs. Doubtfire is really extraordinary.
Oh.
First of all, he can do so many voices. He's very, very funny. Could never be funnier than Robin Williams, but I would say he comes pretty close. And also, this is an incredibly physical piece, because if you remember the film, you know there are scenes where he has to be Mrs. Doubtfire and then himself in
Yes.
very short order. So this is happening on the stage with this very big costume, these very big prosthetics. So I found myself laughing a lot, and I think we all need to laugh right now, so it ended up being really entertaining.
You know, you mentioned Robin Williams twice, and this is my problem, I know, and you won't agree with this, but I feel I have to express. When someone does a part unbelievably brilliantly, it's impossible for me, my limitation, not theirs, to ever appreciate another person, even if they're good, because that's who the character is. You know what I'm trying to articulate?
Yeah, but
Is that a problem for you? I mean, you agree he was brilliant, right?
Well, of course, beyond brilliant.
So
yeah.
is that ever a problem for you?
I think if he was trying to play Robin Williams, that would be a problem. But he's playing a character, and I think they veer it off just enough. Truthfully, I haven't seen the film in years, but it didn't seem to hew exactly like the film. So I think they gave this actor enough departure points
Well,
that
that's
he
important.
didn't find himself in the position of just replicating everything that Robin Williams
You know when
did
this
so
occurred?
well.
Remember we had Jason Tremblay here a couple of weeks ago, the week before she performed with the Pops, when Keith Lockhart was co-hosting the show, and then she went on and performed with the Pops. She did Somewhere Over the Rainbow. She did, and when you hear Judy Garland do it, even though it was 100 years ago, it's really, and she was great. And because she did a little bit differently, maybe that was the point you're trying to make, that she put her own touch on it. It was great. But when it's done in a way that you can never, ever erase,
No.
nor should you, it's really hard to overcome.
Did meet him once. I met him in the public
Met who?
garden, Robin Williams.
You did?
I met him the day he was filming that very poignant park bench scene with Matt Damon for Good Will Hunting.
Oh, Good Will Hunting,
And
yes.
at that point, because we were college kids at Emerson College, walking through the public garden, we knew that Robin Williams was filming a movie. We had no idea who the blonde kid was that he was talking to, because Matt Damon wasn't at all famous at that point. Of course, that was the film that made him famous. So we were brats. We started screaming his name, Robin Williams. And he came over and talked to us.
He did?
And signed autographs, and
my
then
God.
told us that he had to go take a leak at the Ritz-Carlton. Because he was on his way to a little break. But
that
he was
sounds perfect.
so nice.
Quickest mind and maybe in the history
Oh,
of
had to have been.
ever.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
incredible.
he was very talented. We don't have time for any more, do
No,
we?
but you're going to come back. No, we're going to do Primary Trust next week because everybody is raving.
Are you going to tell us
I
about the
assume
show
you will
now
too.
or later?
Later.
I'll come back.
Okay, he's going to tell us
We
about
love
it
that.
later.
Jared Bowen,
All
thank
right.
you.
Jared Bowen, thank you very much. We have been speaking with Jared Bowen. He's GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show, which airs on Saturdays at 7 p.m. and 8. Oh, on 88.5 NEPM. It's Saturday at 7 p.m. I didn't realize that, but it's here daily on GBH right after us at 2 o'clock, and you're going to be here live at the library today. Okay, thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
We say goodbye to you listening on NEPM, where Jared's going to be on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. But make sure to tune in to the fabulous 413. We met Monty and Khalees again yesterday in person. It was great. The show continues here in Boston. Coming up after the new news, how the right plans to weaponize the assassination of one of their own, Charlie Kirk, and the incompetence and arrogance and really temper of Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, yesterday in Congress. National security expert Juliette Kayyem. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browder and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, preserving the history of graphic communication from typewriters and presses to computers and copiers. Their expanded exhibit of rare and historic Bibles is now on view. More at museumofprinting.org. Homo sapiens outlasted other human species and spread across the globe. But how? Nova traces the origins of us in the exciting 5-part series Human, premiering tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 2 of BPR live from the Boston Public Library. We'll start this hour with Harvard national security expert Juliette Kayyem on the latest on Charlie Kirk, his accused killer, and the fallout. Plus, FBI Director Kash Patel goes wild before the United States Senate.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then the ACLU's Carol Rose on the Supreme Court's decision to allow racial profiling by ICE and the Trump administration's attacks on free speech. Is there anything anyone can do to stop it? That plus our beloved Two More Things segment is next on the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is on an unprecedented second state visit to the United Kingdom. King Charles deploys tiara diplomacy in the pursuit of stronger ties between Britain and the U.S., complete with a carriage procession and guard of honor in welcoming Trump and First Lady Melania Trump to Windsor Castle today. As the royal family rolled out the red carpet for the U.S. leader, anti-Trump protesters rolled out a symbol of the Epstein scandal that has dogged the president. Overnight, an image of Trump with the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was projected onto the outer walls of Windsor Castle. 4 people have been arrested. NPR's Lauren Frayer has more details.
This is Windsor Castle, home of the
video of Trump and Epstein lit up the castle walls after dark.
And this is a film about Trump's relationship with the world's most famous pedophile.
But it's not just Trump. King Charles's brother, Prince Andrew, was also friends with Epstein. So was the UK ambassador to Washington, who last week was fired for Epstein ties. Other protesters, climate activists, burst into a Republican dinner here in Windsor yelling, "If you drill, baby, drill, how many will you kill?" Polls show more than 60% of Britons have an unfavorable view of Trump. Protesters are marching in Windsor and in London, where balloon copies of a giant baby Trump blimp that was hoisted during a previous presidential visit are bobbing above the crowd. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, Windsor, England.
Members They're hearing this hour from the ousted director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Susan Menares. Menares says she was forced out of her job only weeks after she started because of growing political interference in the agency's science-based work, including vaccine recommendations.
I resigned because CDC leaders were reduced to rubber stamps, supporting policies not based in science and putting American lives at risk. Secretary Kennedy censored CDC science, politicized its processes, and stripped leaders of independence. I could not, in good conscience, remain under those conditions.
Kennedy's allies have accused Menares of spreading false information and undermining President Trump's agenda. In the wake of political violence that claimed conservative activist Charlie Kirk's life last week, a House committee is now scheduling a hearing next month on what it describes as the radicalization of online forum users. The CEOs being asked to testify include the head of Discord. It's the forum Utah authorities say Kirk's alleged killer, Tyler Robinson, used the day of Kirk's assassination. Robinson made a brief court appearance yesterday, and he is now facing aggravated murder, firearms, and obstruction charges. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The 18-year-old Falmouth man who allegedly threatened to do a school shooting in Falmouth was in Barnstable District Court for a dangerousness hearing yesterday. According to a court clerk, Ian Fotheringham was not found to be dangerous. He was granted $2,500 cash bail with GPS monitoring required upon release. The clerk says Fotheringham's parents are expected to be back at the courthouse today to bail him out. Fotheringham is charged with threatening to use a deadly weapon in a public building, which is a felony. He will be back in court next month. The Cape Cod Times reports that Fotheringham has been accused of making threats of violence as far back as October of last year. United States Attorney Leah Foley announced today that her office has collected over $48 million in criminal restitution awarded to victims of a healthcare racketeering conspiracy committed by the founder and 6 former executives of Insys Therapeutics. Insys founder and former executive chairman John Kapoor, along with 5 top executives of the company, were convicted by a federal jury in May of 2019 in connection with bribing medical practitioners and to prescribe Subsys, a highly addictive sublingual fentanyl spray intended for specific cancer patients and for defrauding Medicare and private insurance carriers. The court ordered the defendants to pay the more than $48 million in restitution to victims of the defendants' crimes, including individuals who are patient victims, several insurance companies, as well as Medicare. 71 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, where drivers can compare direct rates using Progressive's rate comparison tool. Customers can see options and rates side by side. More at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by Ambassador Nick Burns. Yay. State Auditor.
They're
you
friends.
Like him.
They're friends and colleagues.
State Auditor Diana DiZaglio and the lead actors from the Hills of California. This terrific play we saw the other night, September 23rd, here at the library. We're going to be joined by the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, and September 30th at the library, we shall be joined by the governor, Maura Healey. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, I just want to say also, Sy Montgomery, who's one of our audience's favorites, has a new book with her friend and illustrator, Matt Patterson. Ordinarily, she's on Zoom from New Hampshire. They're both here live in person at 1 o'clock. So if you're here, stick around. If you're not, come on down and meet Sy and Matt. Joined now at the library by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's former assistant secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and a CNN senior national security analyst. Hello there, Juliette.
Hi, nice to be here.
Juliette, so tell us what more we know at this stage about the alleged shooter. I think we basically confessed, but the shooter in the Charlie Kirk murder.
Right, so there's things we know, things that we were told as the state, as Utah seeks the death penalty. The federal government has not filed anything yet. And things that are still not answered. So what we know is someone who was not who grew up in a conservative family in Utah, assassinated Charlie Kirk. His life does not necessarily lead him to this moment. He did not have a lot of political engagement. He was a gamer. He was he played around with Reddit. He was, did these ironic memes, and he was in that world, and he was a good shooter.
And a conservative parents.
And conservative parents,
family,
right.
Yeah.
What we know and what we've heard from some reporting, as well as obviously the affidavit, or what we know from that pool of information, is he has a roommate who is transitioning to be a woman who he had a relationship with and had become, at least from the statements by his mother, more left-leaning, more interested in left politics, and obviously more pro-trans rights. So there's some sort of a progressive element running in him. What we don't know is how lots of people change their mind politically. Lots of people go from conservative to more progressive because they're surrounded by different ideas. Lots of people go from liberal to conservative, as we have seen. Almost all those people do not become assassins. I can't figure it out yet. And anyone who's telling you that they can figure it out, that it was the left and the Democratic Party and the groups is lying to you. There's just that gap is something that lots of us are sort of asking. There's just nothing. I mean, it's the gaming world and this weird what someone I was on air with said, sort of ironic nihilism, and it was like they're sort of making jokes and saying if you read this, you're gay on the bullet casing. Yeah. But none of it, and he didn't have a history of, I hate Charlie Kirk. No. He apparently criticized him, but honestly, lots of people did. So that's sort of where we are on the radicalization, sort of how do I explain Tyler Robinson?
Can I comment on that just for a second? I don't know 1/100th as much as you do about these kinds of issues and motives and that sort of thing. And I want to be careful when I say this, at least to me as a layperson, like I often view people who do horrible things. This is not an excuse, but in part an explanation. There's serious mental health questions here. I mean, and what gave it away to me last night, again, I may be wrong, is when they were reading with the prosecutor from the county, was reading a lot of the texts that he exchanged, not just with friends in that chat group, but to me more significantly with his lover, the person who was transitioning. And I think it was with that person, that he was deeply worried about how upset his father would be if he didn't return the rifle that he had left behind than he was about the fact that he just murdered somebody.
It was weird.
It's just, and I'm not... to me, even if you intended, which he clearly did, allegedly he's been planning this for a week or so, to do it, that to me was such an odd disconnect that it suggests he's not really in the real world.
Right. It also sort of, I would suspect this entire room, but certainly the three of us sort of live in a world that I think we cannot get our heads around this world of the sort of gaming, as I said, ironic memes. Like, this world it's not tied to any party. It's not like they're on Fox News. They don't even watch Fox News. They don't watch CNN. It's just this different world. And I didn't watch and have yet to watch the shooting itself. I just don't need to see it. And I was talking to a friend this weekend, and I said, "Did you watch it?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "What was your reaction?" She goes, "It felt like a game." Like how fast Charlie Kirk, like it was just like a gun. And so exactly what you said, this disjoint between the severe consequences he's worried about by his grandfather and father, and the lack of consequences over the gun, and the lack of moral or legal consequences he seems to be able to avoid is a gap that's just I don't know how to fill it. I will say lots of partisans are trying to fill it, but this is just based on my experience. This is the way I'm seeing it unfold.
You know what I thought was fascinating too, assuming that the roommate was telling the truth. Obviously he was talk to the roommate like my love, that they were living together, and if the roommate is to be believed, this person had no idea what Tyler Robinson was up to, and gosh, if you're planning a murder for a week and you're planning how you're going to get there and how you're going to get away from there and what you're going to do with the gun and all these things, isn't it interesting that he did not seem to indicate there was any unease to this lover?
Or such extreme radicalization.
Yeah.
So it clearly didn't happen in a week, but by all accounts, at least what we're seeing from from Utah's case so far, which is going to be a death penalty case, there is a sort of growing change in him, which is probably related to his romantic relationship, but nothing yet in the, unlike school shooters who are leaving long trails or mass shooters who, want to be famous, there's nothing that brings us to this moment that I can explain yet. It may come out later in terms of, people become very radical and don't become assassins. We're not even seeing that. We're not seeing intense radicalization.
Well, there's one other thing, but you wanted to say something.
I just want to mention that Zoe is telling us that someone we've had on quite a few times talking about online disinformation, Joan Donovan, apparently her meme wars is all about what goes on in this world, as well as someone, Elle Reeve, who wrote a book called Black Pilled on alt-right nihilism.
Yeah, and I've been reading. I mean, as I said, the conventional mind can't get their head around it. I'm reading this and I'm not getting it, and they're not even political memes. They're as someone just said, they're just ironic. They're just trying to be stupid and ironic.
You know what is really troubling? Doubly, I mean, obviously, what's troubling is there's a guy who lost his life and apparently loved by zillions of people, even if we don't share the perspective that they have on his work and his positions, they did, there were no signs. Occasionally you feel a little bit of hope if the system ever got serious, which it won't, for example, about mental health issues, but there was no sign up front. I mean, like the guy who stabbed that horrible stabbing, the legal system and the mental health system obviously failed, or that woman from Ukraine, right, who was killed, would not be dead. Here there was no sign of this, and one would argue, unless there's new evidence to come, arguably unpreventable, which is really scary. Horribly scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all sort of feeling that, the lack of agency about how lots of us who are in the arena in different ways are sort of feeling it. But I will say, and I guess I talked to you the day after. I mean, in that grayness of trying to understand, as I said, from the change of political philosophy to assassin is still not clear. In that grayness, a lot of people are trying to fill it. In particular, the White House and Vance and the sort of right-wing group are weaponizing and exploiting Charlie Kirk's death, not to lower the temperature, but to use it as a sword. And we're in phase 2 of the Charlie Kirk assassination, or maybe phase 3. I don't know what we're in, but it is an exploitation of his death. And a certainty that they can connect the dots that is absolutely, jaw-dropping and terrifying.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that, and we've done this every day since the killing, and I think we'll keep doing it because it's important. While it's hard to disagree unless you're totally blind that, as you say, Vance and Trump in particular are doing everything they can to exploit it and divide people even more. Once again, Spencer Cox, very conservative Republican governor of Utah. Maybe I missed something. There's not one word that has come out of his mouth that has not tried to bring people together, to lower the temperature. You were playing some sound or talking about sound about social media. The guy really sounds like he wants this country to do the right thing.
I'm sure you talked about it. I was out of town, but he had that outrage entrepreneur line, and I just thought that's exactly what this is. I mean, it is. The feeding. He just said there are people who are outrage entrepreneurs. He was talking about Bannon clearly. And people who are talking of civil war. We can't expect Trump, I mean, at this stage in our knowledge of him, Trump is not going to lower the temperature. Vance has no incentive to lower the temperature. So that, I do think, I hope that the American public the reason why people turned to Governor Cox, because he was telling us something we wanted to hear, that our capacity for unity to condemn political assassination is essential to keep this democracy thriving. But it's been weaponized, as we know, in all the supposed investigations that are going to happen and the silencing of people and stuff like that, which I know you're going to talk about later with Carol.
We are. Briefly, we're talking to Juliette Kayyem. The hearing with Susan Menares, former head of the CDC, was fired by RFK Jr. RFK Jr. called her a liar the other day. She's under oath testifying about that experience. It's hard because we've been on the air, so we're missing. There are two things that I think are significant that I'm aware of so far from just trying to read the news and working with our team here during the breaks. She has testified that she was told to fire career officials in the health agency for no cause by RFK and other leaders. That's one. And two, you know how everybody, we're going to play in a minute. Well, let's leave it there. How everybody in administration says this is not done for political reasons. This is done on the merits. Here is the Washington Post released this morning exclusive reporting, an email that was sent to Menares before she was filed by the chief of staff at the Department of Health and Human Services, meaning the chief of staff to RFK Jr. His name is Matthew Buckham. I wanted to elevate the absolute need for political review of major policy decisions at the CDC. I mean, if that's not a smoking gun about what motivates these people when it comes to protecting or not protecting the health of the American people,
and
what
I
is?
just want to add one more thing. Apparently, Menares just testified that RFK Jr. wanted her to meet with someone who opposes the polio.
This is where we're heading, people. I know there's no holy grail anymore. It's like, you keep thinking, well, maybe COVID, because there is a lot of debate, not legitimate debate, but it's recent, whatever. And you think, okay, well, that can't possibly mean the polio vaccine, but it is. These people they're getting access, and the access then gives them voice. But you have to remember, because I was in government, what these people are doing. They are monetizing that access. So let's say you're like crazy anti-polio vaccine person. All of a sudden, you are meeting with the head of the CDC. You then tweet. You have a picture at the CDC. You then tweet that picture. You raise money suggesting that the CDC is receptive to your once and always crazy movement to raise money.
Right.
So this is a monetization of the wackos.
Yeah.
That is what it is. Is he going to get rid of the polio vaccine? I'd like to say I have certainty. The answer is no.
Well, he wants to change the childhood vaccine schedule.
Right.
That's supposedly what he wants to do.
And we see what's happening in Florida with the end of vaccines. What's interesting
about the end of mandated vaccines
for
to go
children.
to school.
Right. Thank you. What's interesting is that was 3 weeks ago, and I think I said to you all, every other red state's going to follow. They haven't. And so that's sort of, I don't know what that means, but look, lots of people who, from both sides of the aisle, understand what it would mean to not have a mandatory polio vaccine, which, reminding people, that's where Florida is.
Yeah. Okay.
That's actually a fairly it's perverse that should be seen as great hope.
Yeah.
That they're not eliminating a vaccine requirement.
Well,
they're not for
I was
dead
thinking
kids, essentially.
I was going to write something on the fabulousness of Governor Cox, because I was really taking that. I was like, this used to be normal. Like a governor would come forward and say, everyone, we're all in this together, or this tragedy is horrible.
And younger people don't remember. I'll never forget my own pediatrician when I was a kid. His wife got polio. He was running around and taking care of children. That was before the vaccine. Your mother had polio.
Mother had it.
My cousin has not been able to walk his whole life because he got polio. But she spent her life horizontal in an iron lung. Yeah. Polio is a devastating thing, and I just think it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's shocking. In any case, it's
Get
hard
your COVID and flu shots, by the way.
It's hard to. I had mine the other day, by the way. Thank you.
Friday for me.
Jim's such a good boy.
I am. I get in there right away. And who did I text to say you should go get him?
You said, I'm going.
And what'd you do?
Not
Nothing,
yet.
Friday.
I'm going to get there.
What would she do? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to get there.
That's who Marjorie is.
I've been in Springfield for a couple of days.
Okay, fine. I was in Springfield too. I got the shots.
All right, okay.
So if one had to rate the people who are the most whacked out and unhinged and arguably dangerous in the Trump administration. It's hard to match Kash Patel after yesterday. Now, by the way, for those who don't know, before he was the head of the FBI, the chief law enforcement agency in the United States, he was probably one of the great election deniers of all time. Yeah. And when he was an election denier, he threatened that when he gets power, he would go after and investigate journalists, judges, and other people who had the audacity to investigate not to investigate the issue of Trump having the election stolen by Joe Biden. Okay, so he goes to testify yesterday after, and you'll tell us if you agree that he didn't handle the investigation into the killer of Charlie Kirk that well. Here he is before the Senate yesterday. Adam Schiff asked him senator from California, asked what I consider to be a pretty reasonable question. Do you expect the American people to believe? He said that the transfer of Ghislaine Maxwell from maximum security or whatever she was to this Club Fed in, where's that, Arizona? Wherever it is, was not a political act. It was just done by the Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah, he knew nothing about it.
He knew nothing about it. He doesn't get involved in this thing. And here's where it begins to go off the rails.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
So that is the head of the FBI. Now, by the way, Margie and I agreed it probably would have been better if Adam Schiff didn't keep yelling at him.
Yeah,
just let him make a fool of himself. So he didn't distinguish himself. But the biggest coward in the United States Senate, a liar and a fool. And you know what's incredible? The chair of the committee,
these guys.
who is the 300-year-old Chuck Grassley, I think he's like 90-something.
I don't know.
He's chair of this committee. Never interrupts Patel and says, you'll show respect for a senator of... Durbin is the ranking Democrat.
I mean, Durbin would have status to do. Okay, I will, but here's what the clips, if you didn't watch it, the whole thing didn't show, and Adam Schiff is good.
What?
He introduces himself. Okay, so I have to give the backstory here. Patel is a dead man walking, and no one expects he's going to last. It wasn't just how horrible he was in the Charlie Kirk investigation, getting ahead of the investigation, tweeting out false news, running to Utah, holding up a press conference, and then I suspect the governor not letting him speak. And then at the same time, a lawsuit by former FBI agents about the politicization. He's lost control. But so the White House has put in a second deputy FBI director. Never been two. The first one is, of course, this podcaster Dan Bongino, who's weeps all the time for all of his horrors. So they put this other guy in who everyone in my world thinks he's being put in for the inevitable cash grab. So this is a long wind up to Adam Schiff open up his questioning with, welcome. I suspect this is the last time you'll be before this.
No, that was Cory Booker.
Oh, Cory Booker
said that he did.
Okay, so I suspect that now I got the person wrong.
But the message is right. It was great.
This is the last time?
This is the last time because everyone knows that the White House is everyone but him, and he's begging for everyone to love him. The president did come out and say he did a great job, but that obviously means nothing in Trump world. So, I
don't know about that. I mean, remember when some of us naively thought that after day one of the testimony of nominee Kavanaugh, that Trump was going to pull the nomination. Kavanaugh goes in the next day, starts screaming and crying for an audience of one, Donald Trump, and he gets to keep his nomination. He's confirmed. I agree with you until that performance. I think Trump is somebody who likes a screaming, out of control FBI director. You did what people who support me do. And if anything, maybe I'm wrong, I think he extended his longevity in the position.
He might have. It's really hard to tell what the White House makes of the fact that how horrible these guys are, and I put Kash Patel in the same sort of camp as Hegseth
and RFK Jr.
that you're the mutiny against them and the leaks and whatever, like how much, that is going to start to bother them. So like, for example, Hegseth clearly has lost a lot of the rank and file in the Pentagon because we know things about, for example, this boat that they shot off of Venezuela. We now know that it was turning back, that the boat with, you never would have 13 or 14 drug smugglers in the same boat, because you'd want drugs on them, that the boat was probably something else and saw what was going on and and turned back. We only know that from the leaks. So I don't know, but what I do know is that Patel was already, they knew, it's not simply that he was a screamer or whatever, that he just simply is an idiot. And at some stage, I think that becomes unbearable for the White House. At some stage, but they do have someone lined up to take over.
We are totally doomed. Can you move to your right a second?
What?
Monarez, who's now being questioned by a senator from Oklahoma, says, quote, "I was fired for holding the line on scientific integrity." Yeah. And you read that and you sort of move on to the next thing. Kash Patel. This is a woman who's dedicated her life, who RFK Jr. a month ago said was impeccably well qualified for the role. She refused to do a bended knee thing, and he fired her. Yeah. And we move on to the next topic.
I want her to be my doctor.
Well,
exactly.
She looks good. I mean, in the sense, like, she's, righteous indignation. She's being interviewed by
Mullen from Oklahoma,
who's been interesting on this issue. A lot of them. I think the health issue is one, and you're starting to see it where you're starting to see fissures in the GOP alliance.
They voted for $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. What are you talking about?
No, but I mean on the vaccine stuff. Like when you're starting, you are starting to see Republicans. I mean, you saw it in the hearing for Kennedy.
It's like a cabinet full of misfit toys.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people that are running the country.
Yeah.
It's just. Really,
and I think, people can say, that's a silly, this is the president and the cabinet. What people have to realize, and I'll just, bring it back to Charlie Kirk. These are serious jobs
with serious consequences.
What is 1 in every 4 FBI agents is the number now, is now working on immigration issues.
Well, you hear about these terrible career FBI agents who've been fired by this lunatic because Donald Trump doesn't like them because they were.
One of whom had been there 19 years, whose wife was dying of cancer.
Yeah, that's right.
And they fired this career FBI
and he had
person.
to testify 2 days after she died.
It's grotesque.
And his sin was that he investigated the January
6th, which he was told to do at the time.
What he was told. I mean, it's like the world is upside down.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
How's your day?
It's been great.
You went to the Big E. You went to the Big E.
Did you ever go to the Big E?
I have, and you did not have fried Oreos, which just means you didn't go to the Big E.
Well, we ate so much that we had to put a stop to it sometime.
What was the best fried thing you had?
The problem was they carried me to the car so early on that I didn't have as much. The best fried thing, actually, the best fried thing was that ice cream was a variation on fried.
Yeah, it was kind of fried ice cream. It was like cornbread that was turned into ice cream. It was very fun.
Healthy too. Nice to see you,
exactly.
It's hard to
you guys. See you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. We talked about the difficulty trying to be upbeat yesterday. That's what we did for Talker, right? The difficulty trying to be upbeat in this particular juncture.
We did?
Yes, we did, Jim.
I don't remember that.
Okay. Juliette Kayyem is a former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, Faculty Chair of Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN's Senior National Security Analyst. Thank you to Juliette. Coming up, Carol Rose, Executive Director of the ACLU of Massachusetts. She's going to talk about the real threats to the First Amendment. That would be freedom of speech, of course, as Trump continues to attack media organizations, liberal groups, nonprofits, etc., and the Justice Department sues Boston over its immigration policies. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
President Trump promised to bring monumental change to Washington, but some worry that he's upending entire systems meant to check presidential power to do it.
Our country is built on a separation of powers, a balance of powers.
I'm Elsa Chang. How Trump's campaign of change is disrupting systems meant to check executive power. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Minus 33 Merino Wool in Ashland, New Hampshire. Since 1916, makers of all-natural merino wool underwear, outerwear, and New Hampshire-made socks. Their merino wool clothing and accessories are available at minus33.com. And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, celebrating 125 years of Symphony Hall. The towering music of Beethoven's Missa Solemnis, Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, and Mahler's Fourth Symphony opens the season. More at bso.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Margie Egan and Jim Browdy live from the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, Ambassador Nick Burns, former ambassador to China, his whole career in the Foreign Service. State Auditor Diana DiZoglio is going to respond to what the Attorney General had to say yesterday about question 1 to audit the legislature. Lead actors from the hills of California, which Margie and I saw the other night, they are brilliant, these performers. September 23rd at the library, Mayor Wu joins us. September 30th, the governor joins us for Ask the Governor. Joined at the library desk by Carol Rose, Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Carol, welcome, first of all. You're bearing gifts. What is the gift and why? Hello.
So the gift is a stress ball version of the U.S. Constitution because
so
it's Constitution Day, and so happy Constitution Day, everyone.
Oh, this is it says ACLU. Constitution of, wow, I love that. That is fabulous.
Well, there's no stress.
Is today really Constitution Day?
It really is Constitution Day.
Happy Constitution Day.
Yeah.
Remember the Constitution, Bo? Do you remember the Constitution?
I think, I just said to her, it's over now. The Constitution
No, come on. It was signed 238 years ago, and it is still going strong.
I hope so. I get worried about it a lot these days. But anyway, here's another reason to be worried about it. As you know, Donald Trump and his minions, Vance and Stephen Miller, the guy who is running around the country hating people who came across the border, is trying to silence anybody who's criticizing Charlie Kirk. They're also, who was obviously killed last week, Pam Bondi, says she's going to go after people who use hate speech. We have the House Republicans. They're also threatening to cancel anybody who disparages Kirk, and Trump is suing the New York Times for defamation for $15 billion. I mean, it's all over the place. Basically, and then defund in the sense of have the IRS take away the tax-exempt status for a lot of liberal groups.
Right.
So,
how's
the Constitution?
So first of all, I just want to say, the ACLU, along with virtually everyone else, condemns political violence. And I think it's really important that we say that, and it doesn't matter whether it's right, left, or somewhere in between or nowhere. We condemn political violence. And the important thing is, part of the reason that we have the right to freedom of speech in this country is that that's the alternative to political violence, because you don't want to silence people, and then that sort of drives those emotions, that drives that dissent into other less peaceful means of communication. So that's why freedom of speech is so important and still is upheld in our Constitution. And it's particularly important at times of crisis like this that we all dedicate ourselves to the concepts of freedom of speech and that we don't punish people for their free speech.
Yeah, but
that's not what we're doing, obviously.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's not what we're doing. That's not what the president wants to be done.
Well, that's not what this president wants to be done.
Right.
But I think we, the people of the American public, need to reiterate that we believe in that, and our leaders need to reiterate that, and our employers need to reiterate that, and all of us need to say it out loud, because that is a fundamental American value. And you'll notice that Trump's, his poll numbers are falling, and part of the reason is because the things that he's saying aren't supported by the American people.
Yeah, but my concern, I agree with everything you say, except for the fact that even when he hasn't acted formally, the chilling effect of threatening to sue the New York Times from $15 billion, what it has on newspapers that can't afford to be sued.
Right.
The impact, well, let's hear it. Everybody's seen this already. He's answering questions or not answering questions, and one is asked by ABC reporter Jonathan Karl. And I believe, what was Carl asking about? I can't remember. Oh, here it is. Here, Carl's question is included. Here's Carl's question, my apologies. And listen to Trump's response, standing maybe 3 feet away from Carl.
What do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? A lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
We'd probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right?
That is, by the way, is disgusting. I'd love to hear. I'm sorry, I thought it was over. If we could have somebody who is a Trump supporter text us and tell us how that's. Let me just say, perfectly fine here. He is not only attacking this guy, he's essentially threatening this guy, and we know how people respond when Donald Trump threatens somebody, and the ends aren't good.
And point out, the hate speech he's supposedly referring to is not at all hate speech. It was George Stephanopoulos calling a sexual assault rape. In the state of New York, it is not a rape. It would have been a rape in Massachusetts, but he used the word rape instead of sexual assault. That's not hate speech.
Also, if it were, hate speech is protected by the Constitution.
Hate speech is protected.
But as Ted Cruz said yesterday, of all people, that's one. The GOP in the House of Representatives is talking about censuring Ilhan Omar. And here's what the horrible thing that Omar said that should be censured. One, she said she felt empathy for the family of Charlie Kirk. That's the first thing she posted. And then she talked, she was critical of him, as we've been here, in terms of what he said in life. He pretended it was a civil debate, but it wasn't a civil debate. And because she, in a small way, in the grand scheme of things, was critical of how Kirk handled his business while alive, his colleagues want to shut her down. And the example I choose, and Karen Attiah, we talked about yesterday with Michael Curry, the only full-time black columnist at the Washington Post, who was fired for saying something that if I had been clever enough to think of, I would have said on the show about white people standing in the way of lots of reform that matters. This stuff is chilling. We mentioned, what was the name of the columnist who quit at the Washington Post, who then wrote the piece in the New Yorker? She'd been there forever. A couple of months ago, she quit. Jamie, just remind me what the name of her is in a second. She writes a piece after she quits in the New Yorker admitting to her credit that she toned down an editorial op-ed about Jeff Bezos and an op-ed about Donald Trump, basically, Ruth Marcus, thank you very much, to make herself a smaller target. She admitted that. There are probably thousands of people who won't admit it because
so here's
they're
what
chilled.
I want to say is, first of all, it's not the law. So yes, the Constitution is alive and well, because the things that are happening here, they're wrong and they're not legal. Okay, so let's just be really clear.
Agreed.
And people have an opportunity to fight back, and we need to use the law to do that and to restate our values and to stand together. I mean, what's happened at the Washington Post is shameful. Can you imagine what would have happened if all the law firms had stood together? Can you imagine how much stronger we would be if all the universities would stand together?
You're right.
They don't.
I know, but we need to call upon them to do that. We have a bully pulpit standing up here, reaching all of your listeners, and all of them have a bully pulpit. We need to fight back. We need to stand up to this. It's really important that we not just give in to despair. Yes, they're weaponizing the First Amendment. Yes, they're saying outrageous things, but we need to continue, as you all do so well, to call them out and to say, not on our watch, not in our generation. Our children and grandchildren deserve better, and it's time for us to continue to stand up and stand together and to fight back. And let it start here. Let it begin here, right here in Massachusetts.
Talking to Carol Rose, head of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts.
But what's upsetting, though, is to see things like I just mentioned to you before we went on the air. I mean, everyone is entitled to due process in the United States of America, whether they came here legally or illegally. And we're seeing people get snatched up off the streets all over the place in violation of the United States Constitution. So I guess, like to a non-lawyer like myself, I think, okay, so you're just breaking the Constitution all over the place, and maybe we'll settle it in court 2 years from now when somebody's already shipped off to El Salvador or wherever else you get sent.
No, I know. And I'm with you, Marjorie. I mean, I'm outraged about what's going on, in particular with the Supreme Court and the shadow docket, okay, on this emergency docket, which didn't used to exist. I mean, the number of emergency opinions that are coming out where there's no briefing, no oral argument. The court is just ruling, often without any opinion or anything signed at all.
Which provides no guidance to anybody
and provides
either.
no guidance to the lower courts. It's just outrageous. And we need to continue to call it out and to say it's outrageous and not let it become normalized, okay? So I think your outrage is well placed, and we need to all say it and say that it's not okay. In terms of what the Supreme Court just did on its shadow docket down in Southern California, so this was a challenge that was brought on behalf of people who'd been racially profiled during the ICE and federal roundups of immigrants. And they sued, and they said, you can't do that. You can't target people because of their race or ethnicity, their appearance. You can't do it because you heard them speaking English with an accent or speaking Spanish, or because they work in a particular location, like a car wash or an agricultural site. You can't target people. That's a clear violation of the 14th Amendment and the 4th Amendment.
But they are doing it.
Well, they did it. And then the courts, both the trial court, the federal district court, and then the appellate court said that's not That's not constitutional. And the Supreme Court put a stay. So they didn't rule on the merits. What the Supreme Court did was to say, well, until we reach the merits, you can keep doing it, right? Which sort of takes the gloves off. But let me just say a couple things. First, it's really important for people to understand, as egregious and horrifying as that decision, that stay that the court put on first, it doesn't reach the merits. So they didn't say it was constitutional. They said we're going to pause until we reach the merits. And number two, it only applies to Southern California. So it's really important that people understand here that if that happens here, we need to challenge it. If that happens to you or someone that you know, let the ACLU know. We're looking for cases to challenge this because that stay doesn't apply across the country. It's really important.
Well, one thing that does scare me a lot is if the Supreme Court does take this case and they do decide on the merits, they're a very conservative court, that this is okay. So that means due process is gone.
No, right. But you and I almost came to blows the other morning over this.
The Constitution is whatever the Supreme Court says it is.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's what they could do.
And by the way, this vote was 6-3. And while you are obviously right, this was a preliminary decision, not the permanent final decision.
Right.
I would argue, because I'm much more negative about us than you are, and I admire your optimism because it's usually founded in some small part of fact on whatever. If all six of the conservatives voted on this temporary stay, I would say the likelihood of two of them peeling off when there's a real decision is quite small. At least that's my opinion. And I just want to be clear. When Marjorie says, and emotionally I'm totally with you, when Marjorie says what they're doing is unconstitutional, the answer is no, it's not. If the Supreme Court says it is constitutional, even though every sane person knows it's a clear violation of the Constitution, then it's constitutional. They are the final word.
Right, but they haven't issued the final word.
I know,
and they
but
haven't.
so
And can I
far
also just say that
yeah.
Kavanaugh, a lot of attention is being paid to Kavanaugh's concurrence, right, on this. I mean, he wrote for himself. The others didn't join his reasoning on this, okay? So he's getting a lot of attention on that, but they didn't join it. And I think it's really important that we not declare defeat before we finish the fight.
What kind of people even preliminarily say, and by the way, there is no exaggeration in your description, that it is okay to have roving bands of ICE people, government officials, grab people because of the accent that they speak in, the color of their skin, or the job they hold. Even preliminarily, it's an abomination.
It is an abomination. I mean, we're in total agreement on this. What I want to make sure we do, though, is that we don't give in before we've lost the fight.
Okay, we're with you.
And so we have to fight, and we have to stay strategically defiant. And I've always said this on this show: hope is a political act, and it's important that we fight back. And it's important. And then just to give you another example of hope. I mean, yesterday, 300 people showed up at the ICE detention facility, organized by churches and other groups.
Where? Downtown?
In Burlington,
Oh, in Burlington,
Massachusetts. And as a result, a lot of people, the people who they thought were going to be being shipped out and being detained were set free. So, and we had another case just last week with a young man who was picked up under the Laken Riley Act, which is this act that Congress passed that said that you can detain people without any due process whatsoever, just for being accused of a crime. Not even convicted.
Yeah.
Well, the ACLU here went to court and we set him free.
That's huge.
So, I mean, we are winning, and people need to understand that we are winning. When we fight, we win.
And by the way, I'd be more careful saying this if she had an opponent, because we try to be fair. Wu's response to this BS sanctuary city suit by the Justice Department against Boston was exactly what the situation. She basically, and I'm paraphrasing, we're not breaking the law. They are breaking the law.
Exactly. And the fact that she is standing up and speaking truth to the abuse of power and then wins overwhelmingly, like a 49% margin, shows that the people of Massachusetts, the voters of America, want leaders who are going to stand up to this abuse of power. And when they do, they win too.
And by the way, in fairness to Josh Kraft, who did lose by 49 points, he had the exact same position on ICE's behavior. So essentially, both of the candidates here were walking lockstep on that. So let's come back. Well, we are in Massachusetts with the sanctuary suit. Let's go to Quincy. We talked to you about this earlier on. What is Mayor Koch, what's he in the process of doing that you and some Quinceyites are unhappy with?
Right, absolutely. So this is a really interesting state law case down in the good city of Quincy, where the mayor decided, without any public hearing or anything else, to allocate up to $1 million of taxpayer money to put in two marble statues, to commission marble statues to put in front of the public safety building.
I wish we had a picture
of Catholic saints. And one is St. Florian and the other is St. Michael.
10 feet high.
10 feet high. And so It's crazy because one of them is pictured putting their foot on the neck of a bad guy.
Good timing.
Right, good timing.
Reminiscent, obviously, of the terrible murder of George Floyd.
So this was all done in secret until the Quincy Patriot Ledger broke the story. And when they did, the taxpayers of Quincy, including people from the Catholic Church, people from other faith-based, people from no faith, came together and asked the ACLU and a group of other organizations to file a lawsuit, which we did, to say this is a clear violation of the separation of church-state, especially on a public safety building where people need to feel that their safety is also of concern, irrespective of their religious belief. So we're going to be going into court this Friday on this case, and we're seeking on behalf of the taxpayers of Quincy, we're seeking a preliminary injunction to pause putting up these statutes, and the other side, the mayor, is seeking to dismiss this.
And what Koch is basically saying is these are saints who are important, correct me if I'm wrong, to cops and firefighters, and that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it for any religious endorsement kind of reason. That's their argument, right?
Yeah, but the fact is they are Catholic saints.
I'm not defending them. I'm just
That's
saying.
right.
I mean, his first comment was all the Abrahamic religions worship these saints, which is A, not true, and B, not relevant.
Well, the other thing, when he says it's anti-Catholicism, I mean, shut up. It's like the people saying,
that's Marjorie's legal
the
argument.
Irish need not apply. That was like 110 years ago. I'm Irish and I'm Catholic. I am not in any way under the thumb of anybody. It's a ridiculous argument. In Catholic Boston,
I know.
Anti-Catholicism, I mean, what is he thinking? You got to Google these statues. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
They're large.
And I can't imagine what he was thinking.
So can I be my usual negative self and you be your positive self, and then people give you a standing ovation?
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, so if the Supreme Court of the United States said, which I think is an even worse case, that a coach can summon young people to the 50-yard line after a game and have them pray and argue, well, it was a voluntary thing, even though the coach is really the boss on a young person's football team. That doesn't violate the Constitution. If that doesn't violate the Constitution, how's the Supreme Court going to rule on this if it ever gets there?
Well, I don't think it's going to get there. I think this is such a slam dunk of a case, I would say. I just can't imagine that there's any way that this is going to be held to be constitutional. And number two, under the Massachusetts Constitution, the Declaration of Rights, which, by the way, is the oldest written constitution in the world.
It's Constitution Day.
It's even stronger. And it's Constitution Day.
Yeah.
And it's even stronger. But there is, I'm going to give you some hope, Jim.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just over the summer, we've seen some really good rulings in other states. In Texas, just last month, a federal district court issued an injunction saying that they can't require all elementary and secondary schools to display the Ten Commandments in every classroom.
What court did that?
Is a district court, a federal district court in Texas. A federal district court in Arkansas also blocked an effort to say that you have to permanently display the Protestant version of the Ten Commandments in every classroom and library. In Louisiana, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just unanimously ruled that trying to put up government-chosen Ten Commandment also is not allowed. And then in Illinois, same thing. You had a court ruling that you can't put in a huge Ten Commandment monument in front of the sheriff's office.
Well, these are hopeful
signs. So we are having, there are some hopeful signs. And I guess that's, the people who are authoritarian, the people who want to undermine our democracy, want us to think that it's inevitable, that there's nothing we can do to fight back, that it's coming and we may as well give in. That's not true. I mean, we really have an opportunity to fight back. And I'll point out another example of this. When Trump said he was going to send in troops into Chicago, and then when Governor Pritzker and when the mayor in Chicago fought back and said, not on our watch, we're not going to let you, he backed down. He did a taco, and instead he's saying, I'm going to go into Memphis because there I can get, the Tennessee governor to authorize the federalization of the National Guard. So I think when we fight back, we have a really, really important chance to win. And even if ultimately we lose, history will judge, where were you when authoritarian came?
I want to know about your protest on the 18th.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, October 18th. Now, the last No Kings protest was such a mob scene. I was down there. It took us 20 minutes just to get off of Boston Common because you were walking like inches at a time. It was so crowded.
Got to get there early.
You got to get there early.
So this is nationwide.
Marjorie was there as a journalist, for those of you who are about to send text, by the way. Yes, she was.
So there's going to be a No Kings protest on October 18th, on Saturday. It's going to be nationwide. There's going to be No Kings protests across the country, across the Commonwealth, in every city and town. And this is an opportunity to say to our elected leaders, we want you to defend our democracy. We care about democracy. We care about the Constitution, and we care about the rule of law. So if you are able and willing to do that, we hope that everyone will show up. This is being sponsored by a whole range of groups, including but not limited to the ACLU. And it's really important that we exercise our rights while we still have them.
Now, I remember the first time Trump was elected, the ACLU took a big haul of money. People were upset and they contributed. How are finances over there? You're getting that big haul?
No, we're not seeing as much of a Trump bump this time.
Yeah,
I think people are really nervous.
We need a Trump bump for the ACLU.
Yeah, we sure do. Thank you for that. I mean, I saw a great New Yorker cartoon the other day. It's two guys walking along, and one guy says, "What do you call 100 lawyers suing the government?" And the second guy says, "A good start." Well, we don't have 100, but we need them.
Well, you know what part of the problem may be? I didn't know where to fit this in the show.
What?
I don't know if you both saw the Wall Street Journal story about Joe Biden unhappy that he's not making as much money as former presidents do when they... No, I didn't mean... I'm making it sound like I mean, he can do whatever he wants to do. And one of the reasons he's not getting hired, there are other reasons, I'm sure, because he's showing his age, and is their donors are afraid that it's going to upset Donald Trump.
The chilling effect.
If they pay Joe Biden, a former president, to speak. So that's, again, the chilling effect of just, it's sort of anticipatory non-donation, because people are so scared of the reaction of Donald Trump.
One of our staff members said her younger sister, who's in school, was disappointed the teachers didn't talk more about the Charlie Kirk assassination, and if they'd seen it on social media. And I think that was because teachers have been fired for saying the wrong thing about Charlie Kirk. So it's the same sort of chilling effect.
And it's really important that we, as Americans, be patriots and we stand up and we declare our commitment to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and democracy.
Thanks for the gift. You were terrific.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Carol Rose.
Thank you, Carol Rose. I'm a little bit more encouraged after talking to you. We've been speaking with Carol Rose, who is Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Thanks, Carol. Coming up after a quick break, it's our much loved or not loved, depending on your perspective, Two More Things segment. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
The ball is rolling on Boston's new professional women's soccer team, Boston Legacy FC, and a lot of work is being put in to build this team from the ground up and kick things off right. But it's a lot of pressure.
Players who come here in this first year will get to help shape the culture of this club and get to help the community and the fans learn what it's all about and build that up, I think is a really unique opportunity.
I'm Esteban Bustillos. You can find the rest of that story online at gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Revolutionary Valley. On April 19th, 1775 in Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the Revolution rang out. This is the heart of Revolutionary Valley. revolutionaryvalley.org, funded in part by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. And Boston Lyric Opera, presenting Verdi's Macbeth. Power, prophecy, and paranoia arise as an ambitious couple claws their way to the throne. October 10th and 12th at Emerson Colonial Theater. Tickets at blo.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GVH News. Tomorrow we'll be joined by former ambassador to China, Nick Burns, talk about all of foreign policy issues that are percolating up. State Auditor Diana DiZoglio is going to join us briefly to respond. Question one, lead actors from the hills of California. They are brilliant. 23rd, Mayor Wu's here for an hour. 30th, the governor is here for an hour. It's time for two more things. Marjorie, what's yours?
Well, mine is about Stephen Colbert.
Oh, great.
He is the host, of course, of the Late Night with Stephen Colbert, and he just won the other night at the Emmys for the best late night talk show, beating out Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and stuff. And people speculated that the reason his show got canceled, as it did get canceled by Paramount, which owns CBS, is because he was nonstop mocking President Donald Trump, and Paramount was concerned that would prevent their being able to acquire something called Skydance, and the owner of Paramount to make tons and tons of money. They said that wasn't true, but anyway, that's what a lot of people think. So he wins the other night, and I thought he gave a very inspiring little speech. Here's Stephen Colbert accepting the Emmy for Outstanding Talk Series Sunday night at the Emmys.
10 years ago, in September of 2015, Spike Jonze stopped by my office and said, "Hey, what do you want this show to be about?" And I said, Spike, I don't know how you could do it, but I'd kind of like to do a late night show, a late night comedy show that was about love. And I don't know if I ever figured that out, but at a certain point, and you can guess what that point was, I realized that in some ways we were doing a late-night comedy show about loss. And that's related to love, because sometimes you only truly know how much you love something when you get a sense that you might be losing it. And 10 years later, in September of 2025, my friends, I have never loved my country more desperately. God bless America. Stay strong, be brave, and if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy and punch a higher floor. Woo!
That was great.
Yeah,
That was
I
really
thought
good.
so too.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, you're done. Okay, I want to talk about, this is hard to believe. I'm going to praise the Cambridge City Council. You know why I'm going to do it?
Because you used to be a member of the Cambridge City Council.
Right, it gives me an opportunity to talk about myself. That's
right.
exactly right. I am an alum of the Cambridge City Council. Did I retire undefeated?
You retired undefeated.
Thank you very much.
That's correct.
Okay, you got to be
It
more
was a
prompt here,
brilliant
Marjorie.
Brilliant term.
The reason I am praising them is they voted recently to close a portion of Bow Street in Harvard Square. The verb that the person in authority used was they are pedestrianizing, which I think means that real people can walk, sort of like the
Shutting
Newbury
off
thing.
cars.
I believe Mayor Wu is considering closing Dartmouth Street. Remember, it was closed for a long time. That would be wonderful too. I'm hugely for that. And the third thing I want to say, because it really is about me, who was the first person to propose to Mayor Walsh that he closed Newbury Street on the weekends? Who would that be?
Of course, would be Jim Browdy.
That is correct.
That's
and what
right.
has happened since?
They closed Newbury Street on certain days
And
in the
how
summer.
great is that? And now they've done it in 7 or 8 other parts of Boston. Closing down streets, maybe a slight traffic inconvenience, is so civilized and so wonderful for families, particularly in tough times, to walk around, to have joy, to experience other people.
You buried your lead.
What is it?
Well, there's a lot of talk that some unknown person has proposed a statue of Jim Browdy be erected at the corner of Newbury.
I didn't want to say
and
it until
Arlington
they've
Street.
done it. Who did that? Oh, it was
Might
me.
be.
Okay, fine. I did propose that. So far, it's not gone anywhere, but you never know. So
You never know.
keep hope alive.
I think it'd be a beautiful thing. There's Jim at the corner of Newbury and Arlington
Okay,
Street.
but praise to the Cambridge City Council for doing a great thing for Harvard Square.
Okay, very good, Jim. That was a good one. Luckily, we're out of
Thank you.
time this hour. Coming up after the news, author naturalist, the pride of Hancock, New Hampshire, Sy Montgomery is here in person at the Boston Public Library, and her buddy, the turtle whisperer, Matt Patterson. They've got this great new book. They're going to tell us all about the true and lucky life of a turtle, all about Fire Chief, the snapping turtle. Jim and I actually met and pet Fire Chief up in New Hampshire. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library.
Join GBH at our Brighton studios for Stories from the Stage. You'll hear entertaining, inspirational stories while you enjoy drinks with friends. Join our studio audience at one of our upcoming shows. Tickets and more info at gbh.org/events.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, Mass., offering seniors the privacy and independence of their own apartment home, as well as care and support to help meet their needs now and as they age. ConcordPark.org. And YW Boston, presenting Lead Boston, equipping professionals with knowledge and networks to support inclusive leadership in organizations and communities. 2026 applications open at ywboston.org/leadboston.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR live from the Boston Public Library. Naturalist Sy Montgomery and illustrator Matt Patterson join us in person. They have a great new book. It's called The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. We're talking to them about that lucky turtle, the 50-pound snapping turtle named Fire Chief. Marjorie and I know him too.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then a topic I have many thoughts on. What is the deal with men and their beards? Are you a fan of the clean shave, or do you prefer curl-covered chins? And the real issue here, everybody's talking about it behind his back. Should Jim Beardy Browdy finally shave that thing off his face? Weighing next in the third hour, BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Federal Reserve is expected to lower its benchmark interest rate this afternoon when policymakers wrap up their latest meeting. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Fed is trying to prop up the sagging job market.
Investors are betting the Fed will lower its benchmark rate by a 0.25 percentage point. That would make it slightly cheaper to get a car loan, bankroll a business expansion, or carry a balance on your credit card. Policymakers will also update their forecast of how many more rate cuts we might expect before the end of the year. The central bank has held rates steady since December, partly out of concern that President Trump's tariffs will rekindle inflation. Consumer prices in August were up 2.9% from a year ago. That worry is likely outweighed now, though, by the sharp slowdown in hiring. By cutting interest rates, the Fed hopes to keep a lid on unemployment. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The United Kingdom's marking President Trump's historic second state visit with a royal welcome to Windsor Castle. He's the only American president to be extended this level of pageantry twice. King Charles III will host a state banquet for the president and First Lady Melania Trump in the coming hours. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will also make his first appearance at the dinner since Trump's arrival. More from NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben.
The serious part of this trip goes hand in hand with the spectacle. As one UK foreign policy expert told me, the thinking here is to use Trump's clear love of the monarchy to try to leverage him on these other issues. So tomorrow, Trump is headed to Chequers, the prime minister's country residence. He's meeting with Starmer there, and they're going to meet with some CEOs to talk about U.S. investing in the UK.
NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reporting. FBI Director Kash Patel is testifying before the House Judiciary Committee a day after an appearance in the Senate. He's being grilled about his leadership in light of criticism over his handling of the Bureau's investigation into conservative activist Charlie Kirk's assassination last week. The U.S. House passed a bill that would allow 14-year-olds in Washington, D.C. to be charged as adults for certain violent crimes. The legislation now goes to the Senate, where it faces challenges. NPR's Kristen Wright has more.
The legislation lowers the age that juveniles in D.C. can be tried as adults from 16 to 14 for certain violent crimes like murder and armed robbery. U.S. Attorney for the district, Jeanine Pirro, has criticized city officials as too soft on young offenders. Several House Democrats joined Republicans in voting for the measure. It's part of a package of bills in Congress targeting crime in D.C. and imposing the federal government's control over the district. President Trump has recently said he could take over the D.C. Police Department again, and National Guard troops still patrol the city. He's deploying troops in Memphis, where FBI data show crime is high. Trump has suggested similar actions in other cities led by black Democrats. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser will testify before a House committee tomorrow. Kristen Wright, NPR News, Washington.
You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A human case of West Nile virus has been detected in Worcester, prompting the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project to schedule pesticide spraying in the area where the case was reported. According to a notice from the city, the spraying is set for tomorrow, September 18, beginning at 7:30 p.m. and weather permitting. The Worcester Guardian reports that West Nile virus risk level remains at moderate in Worcester. Residents who don't want their property sprayed can fill out the opt-out instructions on the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources website. And Ben & Jerry's co-founder, Jerry Greenfield, has left the ice cream company amid tensions with their British owner, Unilever. In a statement shared by co-founder Ben Cohen, Greenfield left the company after attempts by Unilever to silence his social activism and was sidelined for, quote, fear of upsetting those in power. Ben & Jerry's was sold to Unilever in the year 2000 under a deal that Cohen and Greenfield said had guaranteed them independence to pursue their values. Last week, Greenfield and Cohen requested that Ben & Jerry's itself be spun off to operate independently, but Unilever denied that request and said the company was not for sale. In sports, Red Sox and the A's, Game 2 tonight at Fenway, 6:45 start. The Sox are no longer in the second place in the wild card race. Boo, they're now in third place. Fall weather creeping upon us, increasing clouds, low 70s today, 71 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Subaru. The 2025 Subaru Outback features symmetrical all-wheel drive, plus standard safety features like EyeSight driver assist technology. Learn more at Subaru.com/Outback.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady, Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming at youtube.com. Thank you, /GBH News. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by Ambassador Nick Burns, State Auditor Diana DiZaglio, the lead actors from The Hills of California, this great play. This is now at the Huntington Theatre. A couple more programming notes. On September 23rd, we're going to be joined here at the library by Mayor Michelle Wu. And on September 30th, also at the library, we'll be joined by the Governor of the Commonwealth, Maura Healey. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. So congratulations. You and we have made it to the third hour of our show. And this is where we attempt to not thoroughly depress you about the news and state of the world. So we're slowing things down a bit and talking turtles with two people who know more about these they're reptiles, right? Whoops, I was nervous there. Than most other humans on this planet. Sy Montgomery and Matt Patterson, who we both know quite well, join us now to discuss their new children's book, The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. They'll be at Porter Square Books in Cambridge tonight, too. That's at 7 o'clock. For more info, go to portersquarebooks.com or symontgomery.com. In the book, Matt's spectacular illustrations bring his beloved snapping turtle, Fire Chief, to life on the pages. And Sy's words tell the story of his crushed shell and his renewed spirit in their care with the help of the Turtle Rescue League. We not only know Sy and Matt, we know Fire Chief. I can't believe you're here in person, you guys. We are really excited. Welcome, Sy and Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Okay. Well, Sy, give us the synopsis of the tale of Fire Chief, which everybody should be purchasing. I'm glad you got it up there. This is a great book, and the kids would absolutely love it. So tell us the story of Fire Chief.
Well, we first met him in 2020, and this was a couple of years after his terrible accident. He had been living in a heart-shaped pond right in back of a fire station, which was why he was called Fire Chief. And every year, he would make the trip from his summer pond across the street to a winter pond. And one year, he was unlucky, and he was hit by a truck. And the firemen who run into burning buildings to save you and who are so brave, you know, this is who you want to see in an emergency, they were so afraid because he was a snapping turtle that they wouldn't pick him up. So they called the Turtle Rescue League, and out come two skinny ladies. One of them is blind, Natasha.
Is that so?
Yes, which we didn't realize for quite some time because she didn't need to use the white cane in her home when we first met her.
In fact, Sy said for her to drive the car.
Yeah, at one point, you drive. This is going to be great. But Natasha can do just about anything. Anyway, so they rush out in their turtle ambulance. They brought a kayak. They went into the water. They got the chief out, bloodied. His shell is all broken. They bring him back to the turtle hospital. They fixed up his shell, and by the time we met him, his shell had healed, but his back legs and tail were still very, very weak. They had been paralyzed, but they were coming back. So our job at Turtle Rescue League, when we were volunteering there, was to do physical therapy on a 42-pound snapping turtle. And this entailed at one point his own bespoke wheelchair, which I believe we showed you.
Yes, you did.
And mostly it was walking around in the turtle garden, so we got to know him really well.
So about how much does Fire Chief weigh?
He's 42 pounds.
Okay, so we know about the heart-shaped pond. We know about all this in the wild. Please tell people where he was living when Marjorie and I met Fire Chief. Where was that?
Well, he was in my house. He was in the basement. He comes in the winter. He has his pond in the summer, and in the winter he comes in. So you can actually see him from our kitchen.
And
my wife loves that.
I know that. Your wife's great too. So he lives in a tank in the basement to keep him safe.
In the winter.
In the winter.
Just in the winter.
And so we're standing there. One of us is terrified. We're in your house. I gotta be. I'm as terrified. Marjorie, of course, you're so calm about so many things.
I was?
You were.
You were great.
And then,
we have a picture with you.
Okay.
Good.
And we tried to find it, but we don't know where the pictures are. In any case, they're somewhere good. You go to the basement and you just carry this thing, I shouldn't say this thing, this wonderful turtle, Fire Chief up the stairs, deposit him on the kitchen floor, and then we all start petting him at her insistence, Sy, and the turtle's totally fine. Is that a fair description?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, he's a very friendly turtle. He's a snapping turtle, but you know, turtles are all individuals just like people, and he's different. He's very gentle. He's very calm. He lets us feed him by hand. We scratch him in the face, which you shouldn't do to a wild snapping turtle, we should say that.
Or a wild person. You just walk up
Wait
to
a
someone,
second.
start
You told
scratching
me
their
to
face.
pat him on his head, and I did.
Oh, you could totally do that.
And you said it was nothing to worry about.
But not a wild snapping turtle.
Oh.
Yeah, just a turtle you don't know. Just like a person you don't know.
We were like 60% sure he wouldn't bite you.
How much does Fire Chief weigh?
He's 42 pounds.
That's a pretty big turtle. So
he's a big turtle.
Is this something unusual that turtles are able to survive like this? Because I told you my great story of a turtle in the lake that I grew up in the summertime that we thought was dead, and then he seemed to come back to life. So is this unusual, unique to turtles?
They're super strong.
Yeah, turtles are tough. Turtles can survive injuries that look like, other animals wouldn't be able to survive them. As long as what did Alexia say? As long as his organs aren't smeared all over the road,
Right.
they might be able to save him, and it's true.
So when he was injured, and he was injured because he had to go from the one pond, the heart-shaped pond, to a different pond, and then he had to cross the street. And obviously the cars come flying down. There's no turtle crossing sign or anything, I guess.
Right, and when he first crawled to the pond and selected that pond for his summer pond and the other for his winter pond, that was like 60 years ago.
Yeah.
He was this big, and the road was just a little country lane. And now it's a state highway. And as soon as we went there to see where he'd been hit, we knew he couldn't be released there. So that was when we found Matt a house on my street. He bought it and immediately dug a pond for Fire Chief.
I did, yeah, with the world's smallest excavator. It had like a grapefruit spoon on the end of it.
I should know the answer to this because I know I asked you when we were at your house a while ago, Matt. Does Fire Chief know you?
He does, yeah.
And when you walk down to say hello or feed him or move him around, he recognizes you.
He does. He recognizes us. We feed him by hand. We spend time with him. He loves it when I mow the lawn. He always comes out to watch me.
Is that really true?
Yeah.
And what does he do? Just sit there and
He
watch
just sits
you do
there and
that?
watches. Yeah, he comes out to the edge of the pond, kind of hangs out halfway, and just watches me go back and forth.
And he doesn't want to get out of the small pond in the back of your house and go someplace else. He's content to stay there. He's not trying to escape or anything.
He's not trying to escape. He does come out and walk around once in a while.
Yeah.
He'll sun himself, but yeah, he has his own pond, so he can do, wild turtle things. He can be king again.
And
Matt, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
I was just wondering, because we read the story, obviously, and we talked to you about turtles before. How did Mother Nature make it so that the mothers kind of abandon the eggs?
Doesn't that sound like a good idea sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes it probably does. But I know this happens with fish. It happens with other animals, too. Mom lays the eggs, and then she takes off. But that leaves these little tiny turtles to tough circumstances.
I know. Yeah. I mean, he was super, super lucky because most turtle eggs actually get eaten by predators before they ever hatch.
Yeah.
And most baby turtles get eaten by predators. They're so small.
Everyone
that a fish,
will eat them.
Yeah, a fish can eat them.
Chipmunks
a frog
will
can
eat
eat
them.
Really?
Yeah.
We were releasing babies who we had hatched in the incubators at Turtle Rescue League from our palms, and frogs were jumping out of the pond into our hand to try to eat the babies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a wood turtle will lay hundreds of eggs in its lifetime, and only one of them will make it to breeding age, to adult. So
Isn't that a mistake?
The odds are really
by Mother, not to criticize Mother Nature, but it does seem like a mistake.
Well, that's why they lay so many of them, and all that energy goes back into the system. So a lot of things actually rely on eating, turtle eggs.
Well, that's true too.
So they're really kind of the foundation for many ecosystems.
Yep.
Matt Patterson, our listeners, and even people obviously who are not our listeners, know a lot about Sy because we've talked about her background, other books. You are a brilliant illustrator.
Oh,
I mean, you really
gosh.
are. We've seen a lot of your stuff. This, in the true and lucky life of a turtle, you outdo yourself yet again. Tell people a little bit about your background.
Well, my father was a biology teacher, so I grew up loving animals, and since I could speak and probably before, and I was always looking for snakes or fish or turtles, and I loved catching them, observing them, drawing them, of course, and so I've just been doing that my whole life. Just been, really into wildlife and art, and I'm a turtle artist. Not many people make it as a turtle artist, so.
How do you two know each other? How do you and Sy know each other? I can't remember.
Well, we met about 8 years ago at an art festival, but I had emailed Sy after I read Soul of an Octopus.
Oh, you did? Oh,
and we were
that's
only a
great.
couple towns away, and then we met, we started doing turtley things together. I introduced her to the world of turtles. We started doing animal stuff, and next thing you know, we were doing Three books, four.
Am I right? There's a turtle trilogy, is there not?
Yes,
I can't read my writing. Get me if I'm wrong. Of Time and Turtles, Mending the World, Shell by Shattered Shell. Is that one right?
Yep.
And the Book of Turtles.
Yep.
So what's with? I understand him and turtles. He described it. What's with you? Well, you love every animal, obviously, but what's with turtles in particular in you? What's the attraction?
Well, I had written previously about octopuses, as you know.
We do know.
In that book, I examined the mystery of consciousness, because that was the subtitle of that book. There's two hard mysteries in philosophy, and the other one, besides consciousness, is time. And when I turned 60, I became more interested in time, and I looked for an animal familiar who could help me and who would know about time better than these creatures who arose at the time of the dinosaurs and live sometimes to 200 years and have this wonderful pace to their life that we really need right now. That idea of time for them is not this arrow shooting forward. And it was such a blessing to research the book of Time and Turtles during the pandemic, when time stopped. But we had no idea that was going to happen. That just landed in our lap. And it was so fabulous during that time that, our country was broken. The clocks and the calendars were all broken. The Amazon was on fire. The world was ablaze. And to be working with Natasha and Alexia at Turtle Rescue League, literally putting the world back together, shell by shattered shell, was so restorative.
We're joined by Matt Patterson and obviously Sy Montgomery. Their latest is The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle, and it is beautiful and wonderful. Get it for your kid and anybody else's kid.
What's the average age of a snapping turtle? How long can they live?
Well, it's hard to know exactly how old the chief is. Sy says he's exactly her age.
And he's single.
They can live a long They can live a long time, in perfect conditions, maybe 100.
And do they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
No.
Or do they stop growing at a certain point?
They do stop growing, and the size of a turtle isn't necessarily how old it is. You can tell when an animal is really old by, they get polished with time, their shell gets worn and smooth.
Oh, really?
So really old turtles are smooth turtles.
And what is the state of turtles in the ecosystem? Are they, you mentioned, Matt, that so few of them survive from the eggs, but are they endangered?
They are one of the most endangered groups of animals on the planet.
Why?
Over 60% of them are in danger of extinction in the wild. Habitat loss is a huge problem. Poaching, collecting for the illegal pet trade, and medicines and shells.
And roads.
And meat, and roads.
And roads,
Because, they lived... They
roads
arose with dinosaurs. So these roads just appeared like 10 seconds ago as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, and you see a lot of very small turtles sometimes in the road. It's when are they most likely to be in the roads? The change of seasons in the fall and the spring?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when you have to watch out for them.
Right now, they're hatching. So there's a lot of little hatchlings out there. And in the spring, they're on the move, and females are out looking for spots to lay eggs. So.
And when one more thing. When they hatch, they instinctually march toward the water?
They know what to do. They're programmed with 240 million years of evolution.
And that's where they head, to the water.
Generally.
It depends on the turtle, except land turtles.
Yeah, our friend David Carroll says that one of the things that they do is they'll wander around kind of getting the lay of the land. So not only do they have the instinct how to survive, they also, right out of the egg, bam, they're like learning stuff and remembering it.
Oh.
They're actually very smart animals. People don't think that because they're slow. They don't always move quickly, but they're a quick study.
Sy, I don't want to criticize you, but this is the longest we ever talked about an animal without you bringing up the sex life of the animal. I want you to know. So, does this fire chief have a love interest or no?
He does not at this time. His tail doesn't work perfectly, and you need your tail because.
I'm afraid to ask why, but why?
Oh dear.
Why?
Well, they have a cloaca, which is an all-purpose hole.
Okay.
And that's where their sex organs are, which are horrifyingly huge. And you hardly ever see them. And when you do see it, you think, my turtle has a terrible problem.
Like a mushroom.
Yeah, people are very frightened
The
when
males have a longer tail for obvious reasons.
Right. Because if you're mating with someone and they have a shell like this, anyway. So, but as far as we know, I mean, who knows? He may have made many conquests before we met him.
Yeah, we don't call them conquests. We call them love relationships. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I asked that. You know, on a related to this, I don't want to digress into this, but in terms of the love life of an animal and I assume they're smart. That was the next thing I was going to ask you. Don't answer that yet. We read this story, which we're not going to discuss today, but about a snail who, because the snail's coils are gone the wrong direction, which only happens 1 out of 40,000 snails, it can't mate with another snail because the coils have to be going the same way to mate with it. So this snail is looking for love and nothing. It's really horrible. In any case, let's get back to this. How smart is a turtle?
Well, they actually can learn mazes faster than a lab rat. They can't run it as fast as a lab rat, but they have tested wood turtles, and they're very quick to learn.
Wow.
And they can be fast. Some turtles are fast. There's a turtle that can sprint 15 miles an hour on land.
Wow.
Spiny soft-shell turtle.
What's it called again? Say it again.
Spiny soft-shell turtle, which is faster than the average 10-year-old running the 100-meter dash.
Wow.
Is that really true?
Yeah, and that's an American turtle.
Can I ask you a couple I have a couple of stupid questions on my list here that I'm almost embarrassed to ask, but Sy is the nicest person. Is she as nice in real life as...
She is. This is her in real life.
We've hung out with her in real life, but it's limited exposures. What's the difference between a tortoise and a turtle? What's the difference?
A tortoise is a turtle. It's a land turtle.
Oh, that's it?
That's it, yeah.
Oh.
So if you say not all turtles are tortoises, all tortoises are turtles, all terrapins are turtles, they're brackish water turtles. They're all turtles.
Can I ask one more question before we get there? Okay, I have a lot of them. You describe in the book, I think, in the back of the book, how to pick up a turtle. If your concern is to keep them safe and you see one on the road, you talk about the typical turtle, a snapping turtle. Explain to people if they do encounter a turtle at some risk, how do they move that turtle? What do they do to keep themselves safe as well and not harm the turtle, obviously?
Well, if it's a snapper, and you can tell it's a snapper because their tails have these tall, tooth-like osteoderms, like Stegosaurus's tail.
Really?
Yeah, and nobody else really has that in North America that you're going to see. And not all snapping turtles are going to bite you, and they'll never bite you when you're in the water. Never, never, never.
Nope.
But
why not?
They have no reason to.
Yeah, they're like vultures of ponds. They eat dead things. People are scared of them. They're really important.
They think they're monsters. People think these guys are monsters.
Wait a second. Before you answer, do you mind holding up your inner left arm to the camera? Matt, I've missed this till now. Can we get a shot of the tattoo on Matt's arm here? That is fabulous. I'm sorry, when did you get that?
About 3 years ago.
That is beautiful.
What kind of turtle?
It's a spotted turtle.
Okay.
Okay, so I interrupted. That's beautiful.
And it's his drawing.
It is?
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. So continue. How do you pick up a turtle, a snapping turtle, any other turtle?
Snapping turtle is the only turtle you really have to be worried about, and they don't always bite. But to make sure that it cannot bite you at all, there's 2 ways to lift it. Well, one, you don't have to not even touch it. You can get your if you're in a car, you can take your floor mats out, get the turtle on the floor mat. If you have a shovel, you can move it across that way. But to pick it up, underneath the back shell, in front of the 2 legs, there's a space that we call the wheel well. And you can put your fingers under that wheel well and lift him up so that his plastron or belly is out this way, his tail is pointing down, his head is pointing up, and he's never going to bite you, and you can carry him around like that.
Hold him out. You're holding on to the top shell, which is a carapace, and just hold him out and carry him in the direction he's going.
And so for a turtle that you're not worried about harming you and not a snapping turtle, what's the safest way for the turtle for you to pick it up, to move it?
Pick it up by the sides.
By the sides of the shell.
Yeah, and then just always move it. They know where they're going, and people often will turn them around, and the turtle will head right back into the road. So.
So you keep them in the direction that they're going to. That's really important. Are they solitary animals, or do they like having their buddies with them?
Well, it depends on the turtles. I mean, you see a lot of painted turtles all basking on logs together, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Snapping turtles are pretty solitary.
They are, okay.
I think there was a study done on gopher tortoises, and they found that females had certain other tortoises that they particularly like to hang around with. So it depends on the turtle.
Do you draw other things besides turtles?
I do.
What do you draw?
Wildlife, all wildlife. I have a book I did on fish.
What's the name of the book?
Freshwater Fish of the Northeast.
Oh, wow. And you did a thing of fish, a whole book of fish?
Yeah, that was my first book. I did it with my father.
Wow.
And, about 15 years ago. Yeah, and so we're working on a book on caterpillars right now.
Well, tell us about that. Well, tell us about that for a second.
Let me ask you a question about freshwater fish.
Yeah.
I never see any minnows anymore. Is that because of cyanobacteria and algae and the water getting hotter?
Well, there should be. I still see a lot of minnows.
You do see minnows. Okay, I guess it depends where you go.
I guess so.
Okay.
What's the caterpillar book? When's that happening?
Well, I'm just doing sketches right now, so it'll be out a couple of years, I guess, something like that.
You know, butterflies and moths get all the love. So we figured most of these animals spend most of their life as babies, and no one ever writes about it.
And
go ahead.
I was saying, and there's some wild ones that you would never. There's one called the bone collector, and he puts dead pieces or insects all over him, and he hides in spider webs. There's another one who he spins a little web of silk to hold down snails, and then he eats them alive, and then he wears their shells on his body.
Oh my God!
To what end? Why does it do that?
I don't know.
I think he does it because everyone wants to eat a small, soft baby, and if you're covered with the exoskeletons of your slain prey or shells, you get too crunchy, and they can't tell you're a caterpillar.
So you're at Porter Square Books tonight at 7 o'clock. Fabulous bookstore, I should say, obviously in North Cambridge at Porter Square Books. What do you do? When you did the thing with us, you did a little reading, you answered questions. What's tonight's program look like, Sy?
Yeah, we're going to show some images from Matt's art and photographs of the chief and some other turtles, and we'll do a little reading, and we're going to highlight the whole turtle trifecta.
Fabulous.
Does the chief still know the firefighters? Have they lost interest, or do they still know about him?
Oh, you know what's so cool? We are going to actually do a fundraiser at the fire station where he lived.
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
Although he's not coming. I mean, he does travel. I mean, we took him to the vet in Marlboro, and while we were driving back, I looked in the rearview mirror, and he'd popped this seal, and his enormous head filled the rearview mirror.
Oh my
like a
God!
dinosaur.
Oh my God! He's
really
sitting in the back seat without a cage or anything.
Well, he was
coming out
in
of
a
it, yeah.
bin, but he popped it. He's very strong.
Oh.
And this summer we were taking him swimming with us. We went to different lakes, so
yeah,
my friends think I've taken it
us.
to another level now. I'm so weird. I'm now swimming with my turtle.
We have a great picture of you both in the water with the turtle. It's wonderful. This one here.
By the way, we should say we start with this. That was one of the most fun experiences. Coming to your house and meeting Fire Chief with the two of you was absolutely spectacular. The book is spectacular, like everything the two of you touch. Go buy it. The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. Go see these two fine souls at Porter Square Books tonight at 7 o'clock. And we're so thrilled to see you in the flesh. Thanks for coming, you two.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks.
very,
Sy
very
Montgomery and
much.
Matt
Love
Patterson,
to talk to
they're
you.
great.
And it's so uplifting to talk to you both in these kind of tough times.
Beautiful book.
We've been speaking with Sy Montgomery and Matt Patterson. The book, again, The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. They're going to be, as Jim said, at Porter Square Books tonight at 7 o'clock and at Gibson's Bookstore in Concord, New Hampshire on Saturday. If you want more info about what's going on, SyMontgomery.com. That's Sy, S-Y, Montgomery.com. Thank you again for coming in.
Congratulations.
Coming up after this quick break, from the animal world to bizarre human behavior, we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on men growing beards. We seem to be in the fifth beard, not apocalypse, what's the right word? Beards are back is basically what I'm trying to say here. More than ever before. It's beard mania. What is behind it? Beards and you, 877-301-8970. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
President Trump promised to bring monumental change to Washington, but some worry that he's upending entire systems meant to check presidential power to do it.
Our country is built on a separation of powers, a balance of powers.
I'm Elsa Chang. How Trump's campaign of change is disrupting systems meant to check executive power. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, former ambassador to China and many, many other posts in the in foreign policy and foreign affairs. Nick Burns joins us. State Auditor Diana DiZoglio is going to respond to what the Attorney General had to tell us yesterday about question 1. And the two of the great actors from the hills of California that is playing at the Huntington are going to join us in person, and they were brilliant. September 23rd at the library, the mayor for an hour, Mayor Wu. September 30th, the governor for an hour. And we should also say the Culture Show now on Wednesdays is live here at the library. So if you're here, stick around. A lot of you left because of the mandated evacuation for some sort of a drill at 10:45. Come on back for Jared and company. We're continuing our anthropological investigation with the mysterious rise of the beard. A YouGov study from 2023 found a 37% increase in men, quote, sporting facial hair compared to a decade ago. My sample size admittedly comes from watching CNN, like my life depends on it, but the evidence is stark, Marjorie, and bipartisan. Let me just go to a partial list.
We're ready.
J.D. Vance.
Yep.
My favorite FBI director, Kash Patel.
Kash Patel.
Don Jr.
Yep.
Paul Ryan, Ted Cruz, Chris Murphy, that's the senator from Connecticut. It's just another example of male machismo, or what are they hiding behind those follicles? Plus, if you're a person who's romantically interested in men, are you pro or anti-beard? The beard and you is our question at 877-301-8970 is the number.
Well, I've learned today that according to this popular beard blog, there have been 4 great beard movements in history. In the 2nd century, in the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance, the late 19th century, and we are currently, Jim, in the 5th beer...
We are?
Yes, the 5th great beer movement in our history. All these people. Did you mention the guy that's running for mayor in New York City?
Mamdani.
Yes,
no.
Mamdani. Yeah, he's got a beard too. And
who's the first person you think of in American history when you think beard?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Exactly.
How about internationally? Who's the first person you think about?
Fidel Castro.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say too. Fidel Castro.
Karl Marx also had a beard.
He did.
Charles Darwin had a beard.
He did.
Yeah.
And do you know how many years it's been? I read this morning. I didn't know it. Since a candidate on a major ticket for national office had a beard?
50 years.
75 years.
75
J.D. Vance
years.
was the first one in 75 years.
Yeah. Well, you know, we had
Who
that whole
cares about
thing.
that, by the way?
We had the whole thing of the man in the gray flannel suit. Everybody's supposed to be really, in the 50s, they were supposed to be clean shaven and in their suits, gray flannel suits, and that kind of thing. Everybody, you know, wore the same kind of fedora hats, etc.
How do you feel about beards? You want to see a great beard? I don't want to embarrass
I like
them.
your beard.
That beard is fabulous. What's your name? Hi, your beard is terrific. Is that okay for you look great.
There's a beard
you look
man
really
over there.
terrific. That is a great beard. That's what I like to grow when I grow up.
Well, you've also grown a beard.
Well,
people
not many people think
you
that.
You can see him on YouTube if you're watching.
Let's not do
Jim
this.
Has
Let's
a beard.
not do this.
What do we think about Jim's beard?
Can I tell my story about that?
I like your beard.
Okay. By the way, when you grow a beard when you've never had one, and almost nobody comments, you know what that means?
They don't like it.
Not good. Now here's
wrong.
Here's what proved how horrible this was. Remember Meredith Beaton Starr? She is married to Billy Starr. The two of them run the Pan Mass Challenge. When they were here last year, right before the Pan Mass Challenge, Meredith walked up to me during the break. First time she had seen me. We were friends for a long time. And she said, "I love your beard." And I said to her, "Really?" And she said, "No."
Well,
and that was the beginning of the decline of support
Jim,
in my
I
bearded
look at you
nature.
every day for many hours. I like the beard
no,
very
you don't.
much. Yes, I
You're
do.
just being
Yes,
nice.
I do. I think.
What do you like about it?
Well, I think you get a little bit of a receding hairline, and I think when you have a receding hairline, the beard.
That's not exact. We're talking about my beard. We're not talking about my receding hairline.
It balances it. You don't have hair on your head, you have hair and a beard. That's what you do.
That's really nice.
Listen to this anonymous texter, Jen. This will cheer you up.
Yeah.
Beards are so sexy. The beard makes the man for sure. I know a lot of my men my age in their 40s and 50s, don't want to grow a beard because it grows in a lot grayer than the hair in their head. But my women friends and I don't care. Beards are rugged and devastatingly handsome. How do you like that?
Now, let me ask you a question, since we're talking personally. Does Jamie have a beard as far as you're concerned? He does that thing that sexy guys do, where they do it so that it has a little bit of a scruff thing.
Yeah,
does that count as a beard?
No, but it's a 3-day.
He said he's going for the Homer Simpson look. That's very funny. They actually look really good.
What do you call it? There's a name for that, though. The 3-day growth, whatever it was. That was popular way back in the...
Yeah,
in the 90s by Don Johnson. It used to be on Miami Vice. Remember he had the 3-day growth?
Yes.
Tom Brady used to have the 3-day growth. Lots of people have the 3-day growth. Looks good. Looks very good.
So here's the number, 877-301-8970. Beards and you. And we want to know if your position on beards has evolved. By the way, they say the same thing that you're reading from before that mentioned the four, what are they called? The beard millennia or
the beard
moments, whatever the hell it was. That same thing
beard movements
said most of the last 50 years has been a clean-shaven time.
That's right.
For men in this country. So this beard phenomenon that has overtaken virtually every, look around the audience, by the way. I'm trying to look right now.
I
would say maybe very few, actually, mostly clean-shaven men. There are a few.
Did you read poor Pamela's text?
No, what'd she say?
She said, my son, much to my chagrin, has a porn stash. Can you tell what I think of it? I'm not really sure what a porn stash is.
Like a pencil thing?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. We have to look that up. Look up porn stash.
Yeah, look up
see
porn
what it
stash.
says. Okay, Davita from Vermont. What do you think, Davita?
Hello, Davita. Welcome.
Well, hello there. Well, I have to say that I am married to a man who's had a beard for 55 years, or 50-some years.
Yeah.
And we're talking a real beard, not a fake beard, like a short beard. And
look at this guy. Hold a second before you continue. There's a fairly long. That's happening.
A big beard.
You don't cut that thing, right? Do you? No, I didn't think so. You look great too, by the way. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Davita. Continue.
Don't worry about it. So my father was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And he said this was years ago, and he said to my husband, would you shave your beard off so I can see what you look like?
And
he did. And I will tell you, it was a wonderful thing for my father, but not only me, but my husband could hardly recognize him because he'd never seen himself without a beard except when he was younger. And I'd never seen him without a beard.
So how did he look? You're killing the punchline here. How did he look?
Well, he looked great, but he looks better with a beard, and now he has another one, and he's as handsome as ever.
That is a beautiful story, beautifully told. Davita, thank you for the call. You know, one of the worst things, we were talking about this before the show. So you know somebody who's had a beard their whole life, and you know them as a bearded person, even if you're not married to them for whatever it was, 55 years or whatever, or known him, or he's had it for 55 years, and you think they look beautiful, and they shave off the beard, and you realize the reason they had a beard is because they either have 9 chins or no chins.
We had that happened to me at a workplace I was at.
It did?
Yeah, the heartthrob of the office. He was like, oh my God.
Who?
Put it back, put it back, put it back. He grew it back quickly.
Who was it?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, fine.
I'm not going to tell you.
There's a porn stash. We can't put that up, by the way. That is definitely a porn stash kind of thing.
Apparently, it's a porn stash is a portmanteau combining the terms porn and stash. And it's usually was the style du jour in the 70s and 80s, and it came back into fashion, apparently. Remember that Orange is the New Black, that Netflix show about the women's prison?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Well, it featured a character named George Pornstash Mendez, played by Pablo Schreiber, who sported a dark and bushy specimen of a porn stash.
Here's an anonymous texter commenting on my alleged beard. Anything to cover up that smug mug. Thank you very much. That is...
I think your beard is good. Don't we think his beard
no,
is good?
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
Jamie has never said a word to me, ever. What does that say?
It's very good, Jim.
Never. Look at him. He's turning red because he knows he hates it. And he's embarrassed. Look at him. Look, he's turning his head. He's bowing down. He's worried he's going to get fired, which he might. Okay, no.
Carolyn Saugus, thank you for calling.
Hello, Carol. Carol, you got to turn the radio down. That's where it's worked for like 80 years here. Carol. Okay, we'll put Carol on hold. Turn down the radio, and we'll get back to you or something.
Okay.
877-301-8970.
April in Webster.
Hi, April.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I had to call to talk about my husband's beautiful beard.
Oh, please,
and that I am
please.
definitely a fan.
Yeah.
He's a little unusual. He has a beard that on one side is almost completely gray, and then on the right-hand side is almost completely brown, dark brown.
Whoa.
That is unusual.
Very unusual.
It's
What do you
kinda
think
like
of that? How do you feel about that?
I think it's great. He gets compliments everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And he started growing the beard because he just felt like he looked like a teenager.
Mm.
And he does look younger than his years, even with the gray. But I think it's so handsome. And everywhere we go, people compliment him. And I do have to just make one comment about, the J.D. Vance and other folks on the sort of right-hand side of the political spectrum wearing beards.
Yeah.
Just have to tell a quick little funny story.
Please,
We're ready.
So my husband is tall, looks like a lumberjack, keeps his hair really short on the top of his head. Every 3 weeks gets a haircut, and then keeps that beard nice and trimmed.
Yeah.
And after January 6th, we were watching, obviously, all of the news and everything unfold. And he turned to me and he said, "Oh, April, do I look like I could have been an insurrectionist?"
So what do you do?
Because he was noticing that people on the TV that we were seeing sort of had that same kind of look that he did. So
what do you do?
It's very interesting. He decided to keep the beard. I mean, he looks great. So it is fun now. He wears T-shirts. He's obviously, or I shouldn't say he's obviously, he is more on the liberal side of the spectrum politically. And he was finding that people were coming up to him and saying things like, he was a very right-wing kind of person. So he started wearing T-shirts now everywhere we go that say things like, America needs more historians, or We the People means all of us. So it's been really fun to see people's reactions to him when we're out in public, because they'll see him and look at the shirt, and some people are like, walk away from him, and other people come up and talk to him and want to know where he got the shirt.
That's a lovely story. April, thank you for sharing the whole thing with us.
Well, apparently, April's right. There is more of a right-wing trend than a left-wing trend. Yeah, supposedly, according to these stories, yes. They have Mark Wayne Mullen out in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He's got a beard. Todd Young from Indiana has a beard. Vance has a beard.
Chris Murphy, Pete Buttigieg, Mamdani.
That's
right. There are a lot of
but
Democratic
supposedly
beards.
it is more of a conservative thing than a non-conservative thing. But we have a wife who hates them. She says, "I hate the beard. My husband is a foot taller than me and likes to kiss the top of my head. It's so prickly and annoying on my scalp when he has a stupid beard.
Wow.
Then there are the
That's gonna be
stupid
a
whiskers
problem.
in the sink. I'm going to shave it off when he's asleep." A little hostile toward the beard, I would say.
In terms of alternative facts, you were talking about lies, and they have to be correct. I have to correct this lie from an anonymous texter. Jim grew the beard, so Harriet Heinemann couldn't track him down. That is, for those who are regular listeners, that is totally untrue. And if you don't know who she is, Google her. And
Chris from Boston does not like beard. She says, I like my men like I like my tequila, smooth and mellow.
Whatever that means.
So there you go.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Here's an anonymous. This is the problem I wasn't going to raise because I thought it was not whatever. Anonymous from Scituate. Beards are food catchers and germ catchers. Mustaches are... I don't like that word.
Neither do I.
I'll say it. Snot catchers. I didn't write that, Marjorie. They did. I would never kiss a man with facial hair. They cover up men's most distinguishing features. Now, that's a person with very strong opinions.
Very strong opinions. Well, people do have very strong opinions on this. But lots of people think you should keep the beard here. I'm reading this as a text. They think it's very nice.
They're lying.
Yeah, Marcella Lynn makes a great point when she says, "No one finds 3-day growth on my legs very sexy.
Wow.
Like the 3-day growth on a face."
Wow, that's really interesting. Carolyn Saugus, you're next on BPR there. Hey, how are you, Carol? We're talking beards.
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent.
I just want to say I don't mind beards, but they have to be well trimmed because you see these guys in these long, scraggly beards.
Yeah.
And they just look filthy. They don't even look like they're clean.
Yeah.
The person. And it's like if you have a nice, well-trimmed beard, that's fine.
Yeah.
Nobody should have a goatee.
Well, that is a really interesting question. We should have brought that up earlier. I'm glad you did. Why do you have a problem with the goatee, if I may? Yes.
It's like you can't decide to be, first of all, not a whole lot of people look good in them.
Okay.
Number two, either have a mustache, which is very nice, or a beard. But a goatee's like, I can't decide. I'll just do this in the meantime. I mean, it's just not attractive.
Wow, that's tough words there, Carol. Carol from Saugus, thank you for your point of view. I've heard this story before, but Christine from Maine tells it here. My husband shaved off his beard many years ago when my kids were little, and my daughter started crying and screaming because she didn't recognize him. I've heard that's great. And then ultimately, when she realized who it was, she said, Daddy, please put it back on. That's pretty good. Though.
Susie from Framingham, thanks for calling.
Hi, Suze. How are you?
I'm glad at least one of you still remembers my name.
I know. It's a tough day. We had an evacuation. We just got back from Springfield. How are you, Suze? What's up?
Is it Sue? It's Suze, not Susie.
Suze, yeah.
Okay.
What's up, Suze?
Yeah. When I was in college, I was dating a guy who was blonde. And, some people just can't grow beards.
Yeah.
And he thought he had a beautiful beard. And we went to see his parents. We'd been there for 3 days. And all of a sudden, his mother cocks her head and looks at him and goes, Andy, are you trying to grow a beard again?
That's not much of a compliment. Is that correct?
Oh, no, it was not. So he asked me if I could help, so I used henna on his beard. Unfortunately, I stained his skin, too.
That's really, that's another love.
For life.
Heartwarming story. Suze, well, I'm sorry, interrupted you. Yes, what?
No, he just gave up on growing a beard, and he looked much better without it.
Well, you know what's weird, Suze? Thanks for the call. Even though Marjorie is kind enough, even though I don't think she believes it, to say...
I do. I like the beard.
Sort of likes my beard. I told you, the first and only time I ever tried to grow a beard my whole life before, like a year or so ago, was when I was working in Provenance when I was a kid, when I was in law school. And this is true. The only place... This is gross. This is going to be troubling for you. You know where the only place my beard would grow? Beneath my chin. There was virtually There was virtually no beard. Isn't that horrible? On the side. You know what the other problem with a beard, I should say? And I don't want to insult, because a lot of people have this problem. When the mustache doesn't meet the beard, and there's a space between the end of the mustache and the beard. Does that not trouble you as an observer of the beard?
I haven't thought that much about beards, but looking at you, I do wonder, though, when you wash your hair, do you wash your beard?
What's the question again?
When you wash your hair, do you wash your beard?
I would say yes, sort of.
And you're a big eater.
I am a large eater.
What do you do about keeping the food out of your beard? Like we were at the Big E.
No, that checks.
And you were eating all that food. It was full of cheese.
One of the huge advantages of having a beard, if you're a big eater, is you can save it for later. So when I went to the Big E, I think it was with you a couple of days ago, I was eating that hot dog for hours. Now, here's an anonymous texter.
Yes.
By the way, our number is 877-301-8970. Your enthusiasm for beard talk is not nearly as high as it should be. This is the fifth, whatever it is again. What's the fifth one?
It's the fifth movement.
The
Great Beard Movement. The first one was the second century.
Yeah.
The second one was the Middle Ages.
Sure.
The third one was the Renaissance. And the late 19th century.
This is the fifth.
Ulysses S. Grant and stuff like that. They all had beards.
So
Abraham
if we're in the
Lincoln.
middle of the fifth beard millennia, whatever, you should be...
Great Beard Movement.
Call on the show and showing you're into it.
Yes.
Here's an anonymous texter, Marjorie. My husband had a mustache the entire time I knew and was married to him. He wouldn't shave it because he said he had no upper lip. He remarried and shaved it off. I saw him and I laughed so hard. He had no lip and should have kept it. Not my problem anymore. Thank God.
Well, it is a wonderful thing. You can cover up a lot of sins if things don't work out for you that much in the lip and chin department if you can grow a beard as a man. I mean, several people are making remarks about J.D. Vance looks better with a beard because he's got kind of a fat face.
Well, that's not really nice.
It's not nice.
That's really, really not nice at all.
Well, he's not nice either, so I'm not that worried about it.
By the way, did we know J.D. Vance at any point? When he was a senator, when he was elected, I don't think he had a beard, did he? When he was from Ohio?
I don't know, but I remember seeing him when he was first, when he wrote his Hillbilly Elegy, when he first came in, he did not have a beard, and he did not always have a beard at that particular juncture.
Now that photograph, we can't put that photograph. We can. Oh, here's a picture of J.D. Vance in a beard, and people could weigh in if they want. Yeah, well, obviously he's covering up something there. There's another thing growing out of there, and it's covered up. He's not looking that good. In any case, let's go to Andrea. You're in Harvard, Mass, I assume, or at Harvard somewhere. Welcome to the show. We're talking beards. Hi.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I wanted to tell you that when I first met my husband, he had a beard, and it was all right.
Sure.
But then he shaved it off, and I was so happy because he was astoundingly good looking, and I said, please don't ever grow that back.
Well, there you go. Andrea, thank you for the call. But
That is
sometimes it can be
incredible.
the exact opposite. A texter says, I love the actor Sam Elliott. His voice is great. But once I saw a picture of him without his beard and facial hair, not a good look.
So who is
so
an
it can go in the
actor-
opposite way.
Who's an actor who
But
has
usually actors are really handsome.
sports?
They
Who
don't
has
have
a
to worry
beard?
about
Who's a
beards.
great-looking actor? Who's a beard guy?
I don't know. I can't think of it. We were just talking about Robert Redford, who just passed away. I never saw him
Never
with
saw
a
him
beard.
no.
Paul Newman had a beard later in life.
He did?
Yes, he did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, John
Redford
Parker
grew it for a
said
couple of-
Redford. Oh, Jeremiah Johnson.
Okay, had a beard for a couple
Once
of
again,
months.
John knows everything. We know
Yeah.
virtually nothing. 877-301-8970. We're talking about beards with virtually no enthusiasm from most of the audience. This is something that is a huge issue in America today, and it is not about pain and anguish. So we invite you to participate in this discussion.
You know, somebody's pointing out, too, 10 years ago, beards were all, the hipsters, the hippies all had the beards and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
obviously times have changed because a lot of politicians, a lot of conservative politicians
Yeah.
have gotten beards. It's the rugged look, supposedly. All these people that are around, they've all got beards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have that you know, long,
Well, there are a number of
lumberjack
outsiders. Like there's a guy in Maine. I don't think he has a beard, but there are a number of outsiders. One in Iowa that I think was running. Am I right about? No, it's
Angus
Nebraska.
King, he has a
You're
mustache.
right. Yeah, he does.
He
He's
doesn't-
an independent
does not
up
have a
there.
beard.
He's a senator.
Yeah, but he has a
Yeah.
mustache. I think that was a
Do
shocking
you think we'd
thing.
feel better about Donald Trump if he grew a beard? Do you think that would make us feel any better or no?
No, I don't think so.
Paul Newton, we're talking beards, and you're next. Hi there. Hello. Oh, Jason
Hi, how you
Momoa.
doing?
Talk about beards and the whole experience. Go ahead. How are you, Paul? Nice to have you.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
So I was on the Cape.
Yeah.
And there was a huge guy with a huge beard.
Yeah.
And I could see that he was muscled and tough.
Yeah.
And I could see that he had a political slogan on his T-shirt.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you know, this is going to be a big Trump guy, you know.
Yeah.
And the T-shirt said, the migrants aren't the criminals. There's a criminal in the White House.
Wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
It was just a cheerful moment, you know.
You know, that is true. You do make these assumptions sometimes. You see a big guy. I saw a big guy at the Big E the other day. It was a huge guy with a big beard, and I immediately jumped to that
The guy
conclusion.
came up to us?
No,
Oh.
he had golden retrievers. He had a bunch of dogs there. It's kind of like you think of when you see a truck go by with an American flag now, especially if it's a pickup truck, you think it's a Trumpster, or the crosses. They've kind of co-opted the crosses, all the women that wear crosses while they espouse all these mean, non-cross-like
Boy,
things.
Jesus.
So, and beards. Beards, I think you jump to that conclusion. But often you're wrong, I guess, Paul,
Paul,
right?
too, is his name, not John. John was the other
Yeah,
one.
Paul.
is the
You're
Cuban.
often right about that,
How
Paul,
about
right?
that, Paul?
How about that?
Thank you.
You know, I went to an anti-Trump demonstration recently.
Yeah.
We got a huge amount of support from pickup trucks.
Now, what percentage of the people at demonstration drove pickup trucks and had beards? What percentage?
You mean the actual demonstrators?
Yeah.
Not too many.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, we have a nice picture of Al Gore with a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
having a beard in his old
Well, he's
age.
also thin in that picture. Al has, like I've had from time to time, a little bit of weight problem.
He goes up and down.
He does go up
Yeah,
and
he goes
down.
up and down.
He looks really good. Al Gore looks
Well,
really
he was always
good
a
with
handsome
beard.
guy,
You think
Al
so?
Gore. Yeah,
You
he's
really
a nice
thought
looking
so?
guy. Yeah, you know, have you ever seen Bill Clinton in a beard, speaking of Al Gore? I don't think so. Catherine in the car, what do you think, Catherine?
Hello, Catherine.
Hi, I love the topic. It's so timely.
It is?
So yes,
Okay.
I think it's really timely.
Thank
so I just wanted to say that I want to disagree a little bit with one of the other callers.
Please.
Who said a goatee is not good and you can never grow a goatee.
Yeah, she did.
So my husband wears a goatee.
Oh.
And one of the reasons he does is because his beard doesn't grow in well on the sides. He has like patches, but it grows in fantastic as a goatee.
Oh.
And he is someone who has a thinner face and he has sort of a weaker chin.
Beautiful.
And the goatee really defines his face. And the added benefit to a goatee is the fact that you not only look masculine, but you also look extremely intelligent.
Catherine, that was the most
that was great.
Beautifully thought out call. By the way,
there's Bill Clinton with
at
a
Yale
beard
Law
in
School
college,
with Hillary.
yeah.
He has a big beard. And I would argue, and I'm usually right when I make guesses about Jared, you're the cleanest cut person I've ever seen in my life. You don't even do the Jamie thing, the sexy, like, little whatever thing, kind of thing. So let me guess. I would say you have never had a beard.
You don't remember this, do you?
You had a beard?
And you had a hand in it.
I did. What?
I came back from a vacation, and I had a beard.
You did?
Because I had an extended summer vacation.
Yeah.
You didn't like it. You went on air, and you asked people to vote about whether I should keep my beard.
Story?
This is a true story. You should ask people if I should keep the beard or not, and they said, basically, get that thing off your face.
And that's why you shaved?
And that's not why I shaved. I shaved because it was itchy, but
That's why
yes,
you
you had
shaved.
a hand in it.
Well, I have no recollection of any of that, obviously.
No, Jared, you're too handsome to have a beard.
And this
it
now
covers
Jim has
up
a
things
beard.
usually. Well, listen
Wait
to
a
this
second.
texter.
He's too handsome to have a beard?
Well, he has all his hair.
That's you are
no,
vicious.
I'm not vicious. I think that's when men really look good with beards. If they have less hair in their head, more hair in their chin.
Okay.
But listen to this, Jim.
Please.
Don't despair. This is a texter. Tolstoy, Dickens, Whitman, Browdy. What more can we say?
Oh, that is lovely.
Isn't that lovely?
Lincoln,
that's right.
Vance.
J.D. Vance. John Jr.
Don Jr., not John Jr.
Don Jr.
Who's John Jr.?
Don Jr.
Oh, Don Jr.
Yes, I said Don Jr.
Okay,
as in
fine.
Trump.
Do you have anything
Okay.
else to say about beards other than that story that I have no
I
recollection
cannot
of?
believe you don't remember this.
I don't.
I think you took it
remember
on
nothing.
TV. You took it on the air.
Well, I apologize or not for that. So what are you doing on the show, which starts in exactly 3.5 minutes?
We're going to be, as we have been doing, a countdown to the 250th anniversary of the country that we do with the MFA, among others, every month. So we'll be talking about a piece of New Spain art from Mexico. We'll be talking about a portrait and how that ties into the American Revolution.
Okay. Oh, Marjorie
Will Daly
says.
is here. He's going to be
Where's
talking.
Will?
Well, and I think he's in the audience right now. He's
one of
waving
our
his hand in the
favorite
back.
performers on the planet, who has a brand new single, I think. I don't know where
He
Will
has a
is.
whole
He's
brand new
brilliant.
album.
He's fabulous.
Yeah, and he's
Okay.
bringing his $10 song project here.
Is he singing?
He's not singing.
Oh,
maybe
sorry.
he'll sing.
I asked.
We'll
Okay,
know.
maybe he will.
And then the What the Fluff Festival is happening this weekend, so we'll talk about that too. It's happening in Somerville this weekend.
Yeah. What do you think about Fluff? Be honest.
I always preferred PB&J.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I do like it from time to time.
Okay.
How many
Thank you
years
very
ago
much.
was this beard thing that I
It
was involved in?
It was many years ago.
Many years ago. No
Yeah.
recollection. But thank you for the story. Nice to see you, Jared. 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
Jared's
Jared's
show
on
is going to
Culture
start
Show.
right after we're done. Thanks to people who listened to the another edition of Boston Public Radio. The people that came down to the library appreciate that too. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by political commentator Chuck Todd, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral, former ambassador to China, Nick Burns, Massachusetts State Auditor Diana DiZaglio. We're going to talk to her about the auditing the legislature, ballot question, and the lead actors from the Huntington Theatre's production of The Hills of California, Allison Jean White and Kate Fitzgerald, plus director Loretta Greco. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, additional support from Myra Donaldson, our engineer is John Claude Parker, our executive producer Jay Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Olivia Corsillo, Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks to our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned to the Culture Show with Jared Bowen, which starts immediately after us in 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Radio. The beer is good, Jim. The beer is very good.
Do you have any recollection of this thing Jared's talking about?
No,
with
I
his
do
beard?
not.
Me, neither do I.
But I forget whole swaths of my life, so there you go.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Jim Browdy.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
See
Thanks
you
for tuning in.
tomorrow.
Hope you can tune in tomorrow and have a great afternoon.
Bye.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. The Pride is back. filmmakers follow the lives of cheetahs, lions, and leopards through their struggles and triumphs in the wild. Catch a new episode of Big Cats 24/7 tonight at 8 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, we continue our Countdown to 2026 series with the Museum of Fine Arts and a look at the art reframing our understanding of the American Revolution. Today, we turn to Latin Heritage Month with an extraordinary portrait by Miguel de Herrera. It offers a window into the Revolution era, beyond the 13 colonies. Then it's singer-songwriter Will Dailey. He's long been one of the most distinctive independent voices in music, writing, performing, and producing outside the industry machine. His latest album, Boys Talking, is filled with songs that are searching and deeply personal. We'll also hear about his innovative $10 Song Project, a bold experiment that connects fans directly to the music. And Somerville serves up one of its sweetest celebrations, the annual What the Fluff Festival, a sticky salute to a hometown invention that turned a simple sandwich into a legend. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. Tributes continue to pour in for the late great actor, director, and producer Robert Redford, who died yesterday at 89. A who's who of Hollywood elite have been weighing in on the incredible impact Redford had on them as well as their industry. And a fair amount of Redford's work was done in Rhode Island. For instance, The Great Gatsby was filmed at the Rosecliff Mansion in Newport. The horse races and the Sting were focused on the Narragansett, Rhode Island horse tracks. And in his 2017 film, The Discovery, he played a scientist who discovers the existence of an afterlife. Filming took place at various sites in Newport, including Bellevue Ave, Seaview Terrace, and Newport Hospital. And if you find yourself in the South End this weekend, you may want to check out the 39th Annual South End Open Studios, happening Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Free and open to the public. We like that. And also happening this weekend on Friday and Saturday in the Seaport is the return of the Red Bull Cliff Diving Competition off the roof of the ICA and into the Boston Harbor below. Boston is the only U.S. stop for this event, and it's the final stop in the series until next year. And it was on this date, September 17, 1972, 53 years ago, that the TV series MASH made its debut on CBS. The series was set in South Korea during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. MASH, of course, an acronym for Mobile Army Surgical Unit. The show won 14 Primetime Emmy Awards during its 11-season, 256-episode run. That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Wednesday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel. We're starting the show today with our ongoing series Countdown to 2026, a recurring examination of the events leading up to the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Today we're continuing our monthly conversation with the Museum of Fine Arts about artworks in their collection that offer insights into the American Revolution and the people who were part of that history. Although today we're moving abroad. In this Latin Heritage Month, we're talking about a portrait of Doña Feliciana Beléndez y Ramirez. It's by Miguel de Herrera, painted in 1783. We have an image of the portrait on our YouTube stream. That's on the GBH News YouTube channel. We've also posted it on our Instagram accounts, The Culture Shows and mine at The Jared Bowen. Joining me now is Leila Bermeo, the MFA's Curator of Paintings, Art of the Americas. Welcome to The Culture Show.
Thank you so much, Jared. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. And for people here at the library, we'll be posting this portrait on our monitors and again at our GBH News YouTube channel. Talk us through what we are seeing right now, who this woman is and how she's depicted.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, as you mentioned, a picture of Doña Feliciana Belendez y Ramirez, and this is the first portrait of a Spanish-American woman to ever enter the collection of the MFA. So as you and your listeners likely know, we have one of the most important collections of early American furniture in the country, which means that we can tell a diversity of stories about people in New England, right? But importantly, we are an Art of the Americas department, and until more recently, we haven't been able to do the same with stories about people in New Spain. So at the MFA, when we say Art of the Americas, we don't mean that we are only responsible for the art of the United States. It is our job to collect, interpret, and present art from all across the Americas, including all of Latin America, Canada, indigenous, and island nations. This is an important step. It's one object, but it is a really transformative object in getting us closer to that vision.
Well, so we'll tie into how this is, all of the Americas tie into, and Europe as well ties into the American Revolution. But what's the significance of this particular portrait?
Yeah, so in the same way that in this moment in the 18th century, someone like John Singleton Copley is creating really portraits of ambition, right? Of people who are in the land that becomes the United States, but always sort of living with these anxieties of people in the mother country, right? Constantly comparing themselves to their counterparts, often their own family members, right? Who are across the Atlantic in England. And the same is true of people in New Spain, who have actually in many ways, a much longer colonial history. And in New Spain, it's not a story of revolution in the 18th century, right? That doesn't happen until 1821. Celebrated on just yesterday's date, September 16th, Que Viva Mexico. But even though the politics there are different, a painting like this gives us a way to get a sense into the politics of power and resistance that are true of colonies, even if they're not meeting the revolutionary moment at the same time.
Who is the artist of this portrait?
The artist is Miguel de Herrera, and almost nothing about him is known. So he's often conflated with a different artist who was working slightly earlier and who was a friar originally from the Canary Islands, who was very, very prolific, who made lots of religious scenes and some portraits. But scholars really since the 1980s have pointed out that not only do the dates not quite line up, but also stylistically, this is very different. So our painting shares a lot of qualities with a very famous portrait, Retrata de Dama, or a portrait of a lady, in the collection of the Franz Mayer Museum in Mexico City. And scholars currently believe that Miguel de Herrera is the same artist who created our portrait. But other than that, we really don't know anything about him yet. And so this is one of actually only 3 paintings that are attributed to this second Miguel de Herrera, which opens up incredible avenues for research.
Well, as we're looking at this time, again, this was painted in 1783. Where are we to take from a portrait? It could be any person, but there are seeds planted, Easter eggs, if you will, if we're using the cinematic vernacular, about what is being projected and what they want the audience to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also just want to take this opportunity to say how incredibly rare it is to see a portrait of a woman. As I've been sort of preparing a lot of the research on this painting for us to debut it next summer as part of our reopening of our 18th century galleries. You know, I've been going through all of these exhibition catalogs, these resources from different major collections of Spanish American art. And as you may know, much of what you see are religious subjects, right? So you see a lot of sacred virgins. Sometimes you see types of women, but importantly, Doña Feliciana was a real woman who had real human experiences. By the time that this portrait was painted, she had been widowed. She had remarried a man named Manuel Campo de Solis, who was he was like a senior official with the Treasury in Mexico City. So someone who would have been reporting directly to the Spanish government. For criollos, or people of Spanish heritage who were born in Mexico City, or in Mexico, but in this case in Mexico City, such a connection to Spain would have been deeply important, and a portrait like this would have really solidified that relationship. And so what we're seeing in how she is adorned especially are all of these details that connect criollos in New Spain to the mother country. So for example, there are elaborate silver ornaments in her hair. She's likely also wearing silver rings. She's wearing multiple strings of pearls around each wrist and also at her neck. These are materials that were coming from the Americas. And so we're seeing a statement not only about Doña Feliciana's personal wealth, but also about the wealth of the Americas in this moment.
When you are looking at portraits like this and you understand what is being depicted, is this a collaboration between the artist and the subject, or does the subject completely turn themselves over, but again, being mindful of everything that they're trying to project?
Yeah, this is something I would say actually we know more about in contexts often of the United States than we do in New Spain. Often in New Spain at this moment, we're seeing a lot of connection with European models. And so our sense is that it's often the artist who is sort of taking the lead, right, in these conversations. At the same time, I think it would have been very important to her, for example, to be depicted with this fan held very tightly across her body. That is a reference often to women who are married. The really elaborate hairstyle that she has that is ornamented with dyed ostrich feathers is borrowing directly from the French court, which during this time in both Spain and New Spain, the fashions of the French court were considered to be the most important. It's under the Bourbon monarchy, which had very close ties to France at the time. And perhaps, the most striking thing about her is actually this large black spot that is on her face, right? That is known as a chiqueador, or sometimes it's called a mosca, which is like the word for like fly. You can think of like a fly in cream. So a beauty mark that is something that, had been worn by European women for generations as a way to sort of highlight the delicacy and paleness of their skin, and often depicted in portraits, so that would have not been anything new. But interestingly, in Mexico, that particular placement at the temple could be connected to indigenous headache remedies. And so we're seeing something that, while it has a European connection, is also kind of Americanized in this way, likely, and these are things that she would have wanted to signal, right? Her sort of...
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why would you signal your headache if that's indeed what it is?
They always remind me of the pimple patches that we see young people wearing all the time, which is like this very funny kind of, something that maybe we would have kept private. All of a sudden the fashion right now is to sort of wear it outwardly. But in her case, I actually think, there is in this moment already in the 1780s, a building of criollo pride. And that is important because that is what will lead to the revolution in Mexico. And so on the one hand, she's very consciously showing her connections to Spain, again, through her husband, through this very Europeanized kind of fashion. But the materials are absolutely speaking, the pearls, the silver, absolutely speaking to the Americas, and as is the chiqueador. She is also signaling in these ways that she is a Spanish, specifically not just a Spanish woman, but a Spanish-American woman.
We are speaking with Leila Bermeo, MFA's Curator of Paintings, Art of the Americas. So we've been talking in this series about works of art at the MFA that speak to the American Revolution, specifically what would become the United States of America. How does this become, in your eyes, a reflection of the revolution that was happening in this country about a decade prior and, of course, before that?
I think, there were definitely connections already, I think. Acknowledgements of colonial conditions that people in New Spain were very well aware of. And so, this is a moment when they are already thinking about their own independence and already seeing how art can play a role in that. So like in New Spain, we have at this moment already for centuries, religious art, right, having a purpose. There was like a deep understanding that art was not just made for art's sake, but actually for missionizing. And when we start seeing a rise of more and more secular portraits, I think there is also questions that are bubbling up about what the role of these types of images can be. And so while the some of the values may have been different, or the kind of break away from the mother country would have been different, I do think that elite people, educated people like Doña Feliciana would have been very well aware of the struggle for independence here in the U.S. and thinking already about what that would have looked like.
And in France, because there are definitely
absolutely, and so they're very connected to that
vibes
as
of the
well.
French Revolution
That's
in this
right.
portrait too.
Yeah, absolutely, and really, raising questions about the wealth that is in the colonies, questions of taxes, right? Questions of control. Again, she is essentially part of a family that is connected to the Spanish government. But I was surprised in doing some of the genealogical research on her, how long her family actually stays in Mexico. Many of the people, it's very much like here in the U.S., where you have loyalists who leave. As the United States is forming, and that's also true in Mexico. You have criollos and Spanish immigrants who return to Spain. And in her case, because this painting eventually wound up back in Spain, I had assumed that maybe a relative had taken it with them. When they left, things started to get dicey, they're leaving. But in fact, it was not until her great, I think, grandson was baptized in Spain. And so her family, she dies about 5 years after this portrait is made, and her family, I believe, maintains actually quite a privileged status even after Mexican independence. And so that gives us actually reason to think that she would have been sort of her family would have been part of the elite that was leading and benefiting from independence, rather
even
than
as it's
fleeing.
Unfolding, because this is
Even
so
as it's
interesting. You
unfolding.
mentioned John
Right.
Singleton Copley, who was a loyalist,
That's
essentially,
right.
but he left.
Yes.
He left the colonies, went back to England. But this was part of this portraiture too, to some degree, was to show your allegiance, your loyalty to Spain.
Right.
In her case.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So it's more of a negotiation. Even as I'm talking about it, like thinking about this type of negotiation between showing loyalty and also acknowledging one's own power, one's like own budding independence in some ways. Because yes, it is absolutely about proximity to Spain and about capturing that kind of respect that that European people had, that especially in New Spain, Spanish immigrants tend to have the highest social status. And we don't know if her husband was also born in Mexico or if he was originally from Spain. But at the same time, there is, just as there is, here in the colonies, an acknowledgement that the wealth could be kept inside of the colonies and that self-governance could be possible. So, yeah, it's a really interesting story.
Well, quick coda to this, to the point you made earlier about art being fundamental to a revolution. So where does it go after this? We see this fine portraiture. That's one element of art. But what happens, what do you see start to take shape and form when the Mexican Revolution begins to happen?
Yeah, when the Mexican Revolution begins to happen, we do have a lot of the art that is preserved often stayed within families, which is one of the reasons why I think actually this portrait probably stayed within her own family for a very long time. With the majority of Spanish colonial paintings, it is extremely rare that we would have any kind of provenance, any kind of history of the object's life before the 20th century. And so in the case of this painting, we know that it belonged to the same family from about the 1940s in Spain on. And then it's really remarkable where we the purchase of this was essentially through that family. And so it did not change hands very often, I think, from that sort of moment on, and even maybe from a slightly earlier moment. But we see, a lot of art being lost during the war. We see a lot of things winding up, quite frankly, all over Europe as people are fleeing and taking their objects with them. And so it is really, that's another reason why not only is it that, women, I don't think we're depicted as often as male sitters. Secular subjects are more rare than religious ones in general. But also it's very rare that something like this would have been preserved. And I think one of the only ways it probably could have been would have been to have stayed with a family, and maybe even with a family, again, that was part of the elite circle who was benefiting from the revolution.
Well, Leila Primero, thank you so much for this look at this painting and the ties between the revolutions of the period. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Leila Primero is the MFA's Curator of Paintings, Art of the Americas. As part of our countdown to 2026, we're speaking with the Museum of Fine Arts every month, talking about artworks from the MFA collection that offer a fresh perspective on the American Revolution. To keep on top of all of the museum's exhibitions and programming, go to mfa.org. Coming up, singer-songwriter Will Dailey joins us to talk about making music on his own terms, as he's just done with his latest album, Boys Talking. He's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
President Trump promised to bring monumental change to Washington, but some worry that he's upending entire systems meant to check presidential power to do it.
Our country is built on a separation of powers, a balance of powers.
I'm Elsa Chang. How Trump's campaign of change is disrupting systems meant to check executive power. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Boston Speakers Series, continuing its 2025-2026 season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings featuring Dr. Anthony Fauci, Tipping Point author Malcolm Gladwell, Ken Burns, and conservation photographer Christina Mittermeier. BostonSpeakers.org. And Moderna. mNEXSpike COVID-19 vaccine, mRNA, by Moderna is available. More information about mNEXSpike is available from pharmacists and medical providers. And the Hanover Theatre. Broadway star Joanna Day leads the Hanover Theatre repertory production of Doubt, a Parable, on stage September 18th through October 5th at Worcester's Brickbox Theatre. Tickets at thehanovertheatre.org.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
Record, his incredibly intimate $10 song project, which you can experience right here at the library, and how he has stripped the experience of music to its very foundation. This Saturday, he performs at Meadow Hall at Groton Hill Music Center. Will Dailey, welcome back to The Culture Show. It's great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me about this. We'll get into how you released this album and how you have this experience, as I called it, with your listeners, your fans, but tell me about this album, Boys Talking.
Well, it's interesting just hearing that song one at a time because I've never heard it broadcast. Because it's not out, into our abyss of content. But I was searching for the title of this album, and it started from a place of grief because I lost 2 friends in 2020, one to lung cancer, one to suicide. I knew I had a lot of that energy in the songs. And we were actually leaning towards my co-producer and best friend and drummer, we were leaning towards using one of the song titles from the album, and I always fear that puts too much attention and changes the experience for certain listeners. And we're on the phone, as we are almost every day, and I say, I don't know, man. It's like all these songs are about just how men trying to communicate their failure at communication, the problems with that failure. It's just a bunch of boys talking on this record. And
there you go.
And then it was two boys talking, and one saying, dude. And then I fall down on the floor, I think we got it. So
is that how did the album come together in terms of, did you recognize after that this was a reflection on men talking about you, maybe talking to yourself, reflecting on a number of circumstances?
It came, I knew it was about the process of grief in the beginning, and then every song started to reveal itself that way. Because I go in with like 30, 40 songs, and we cut this album live in a room. That was another important part of the humanity within our arts. It's wonderful that I can have the bass player in LA put the bass track down, but right now what I need is everyone in the room together, and we cut this song. And I know that's how it was in 1970, and I'm not saying how it was better. I'm saying what I know I need, and I think we need right now, is to know that this art originated from people being together. And
let me just pause for a moment, because people may not realize, even today, that that's not necessarily how, and in fact, is it the exception that that's how albums come together?
The exception, and a very expensive exception, and a very difficult thing to pull off, to say, all right, I need you in the studio 10 days in a row for 12 hours a day. And I need to be the least talented person in the room when I'm making my record, so that my art can transcend my own idea. And as I was putting together, my good friend Cliff Notes said, what is this song about? And I said, I think these songs are about. And I said, I think they're all just men trying to communicate. And it started from grief, but the difficulty in how that happens, and how we're allowed and taught to talk about it. I mean, that song alone, One at a Time, for me was a reflection of all the action movies that I grew up watching, with one man solving all the problems with violence against a bunch of other men fighting him one at a time, as if that is ever the order of things, and as if that is ever how anything has ever been done. So, and that's a toxicity I've been fed my whole life.
I was just going to ask how you grew up.
Watching Rambo, or watching, Nakatomi, Bruce Willis get out of a situation.
And not seeing those conversations happen in your home.
No, and I grew up between homes. I grew up with multiple homes, which was wonderful and beautiful. And was taught that, thankfully I had music and bands. It was bands and music and rock or folk or hip hop bands that showed me, they wrote that song together, Jagger and Richards, So that was really the education that I needed, and why I'm still here.
I want to go to another one of your songs from the album. It's called My Old Ride.
Yeah.
Happened, from what I read, the genesis anyway, was a very significant place. Before we hear a little bit, tell us the background, the context of this song.
Well, I was playing in New Jersey, in Asbury Park, and my friend down there, a guy named Danny Clinch, who's the Annie Leibovitz of rock and roll. And he photographs Bruce and Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters, and he has the most iconic shot of Tupac Shakur, and he's just stunning artist, friend of mine, and great musician too. We were out one night. He was telling me about his father who passed, and he showed a photo of his dad and Bruce Springsteen in a convertible. And then the rest of that tour that I was on, I just popped on Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run audiobook, where he's reading it and talking about the relationship with his father. And all of a sudden I'm just driving in my car by myself on a solo tour, singing the chorus of this song, thinking, am I really writing a song about a car? It's because I'm always a little bit more quirky, and I've always been told, like, when I was on record labels, they're like, you're a little quirky. How do we get that out of you? And My Old Ride is really, it leans forward and back as far as storytelling usage and rock folk songs,
Well, let's take a listen. Again, this is Will Dailey's My Old Ride off the new record, Boys Talking. I'll ask, you mentioned this for the first song we played. Is this, again, the first time you're sort of hearing it in this context? And what is it like to hear it?
So this one has come out. This is, we'll get into how this album's being released and shared. Again, what I enjoy listening, it's rare that you can enjoy listening to yourself, especially when you're in public. And I think with this one especially, I just hear those people in the room. And I remember talking to Danny about his relationship with his father that he missed, and how Springsteen struggled to connect with his father, and how so much of a man's journey is in lack of faculty sometimes in communication. And this song ends with them realizing they never got it together. And I love to feel that connectivity to every point, the reflection where this song came from, to the people that were in the room with me. And that's just a take,
Well, speaking of rooms, how have you released this album?
For a year now, I've been on the road in Canada, United States, Europe, with the vinyl, the CD, the tape cassette. You can also directly download it from me and bring it to people one at a time. And I guess the elevator pitch is people before platforms. I could sit here and talk all day about Spotify and streaming. We'd first have to establish, when were artists paid correctly in human history? And so we have to start at that discussion. That's a whole dissertation. What I view my job as is not as a musician. If I was working here in the library today, I would go home and work on music. And I know many people are. My job is connection. If I'm asking for your time and I'm asking for your dollar, my role is connection, and the connection of how long music has been our life, and the crisis that we're in right now. The things that we can lean on is our time together with meals and cooking and conversation and music. That's been there since day one at the cellular level and can rebound us from a lot of crises. We know this. And so I've been on tour for a year, just bringing the record to a room of 5 people to 500 people, one at a time, and telling people that from the stage, that I want you to feel like when you participate with art, you belong here, and you have something special to walk away from, and to slow down the process. If all the artists are throwing their hard work in this vital human element into the abyss of all our content, where all our stresses are, and where all our manipulations are as well, then we're degrading that art.
And of course, you've released albums the other way too. Mm-hmm. What has made you, I mean, this is so interesting to think of this concept, when so many people want to get their music out to the furthest reaches and have everybody have a different kind of intimacy with it, whether it's in their car or at home, but that's not the kind of intimacy you're after right now.
Right. Abundance is a con. On a quest for infinite abundance is a con. And we have artists chasing that con. And what I need is time in your heart, even to have a career. If I say, hey, click on this, please, in that tyranny of content, 200,000 songs a day, now with 30,000 songs a day that are AI generated, I'm not making a connection to your heart and mind. I have to slow this down. We have to slow this down. Same with our cooking, same with our love for each other and all that. These ancient human practices have to slow down for us to solve anything. Now, I'm having more success and selling more records than I have in 10 years.
And how is it successful for you?
I'm through the printing of the albums that we've done in less than a year and ordering more. That was 3 years before.
Because it makes it a more singular, more special, more exclusive experience?
More exclusive, but and the people who are buying it are voting on which songs go on the platforms. I don't need to run away from damn the platforms, don't go there. That is where the story ends. And newsflash, I mean, if I told you in 1991 that MTV would be gone one day, or Tower Records in 2004 would be gone one day, or the power of radio to break an artist would be gone one day, you would have laughed. The delivery mechanisms of art all disappear. The art that had time with our souls is what remains. So I need to establish a practice and then also create a model that I can share with other artists,
We're speaking with Will Dailey about his new album, Boys Talking. This is a good time to also talk about your $10 song project.
Yeah.
This is even more intimate. How does this work?
Well, this is where it all started for me, too, because in 2003, I was on the road a lot in the Midwest. I had run dates with Jacob Dylan and a lot of solo dates, and I think I went to Europe. And I had recorded this song, and it came out to be about 6.5 minutes. This particular song is called Cover of Clouds. And it was a short poem that I wrote when I realized that Joni Mitchell also painted her own covers, and I got really frustrated. It's like, oh, great, so another wonderful thing that she does that I can't do. You feel inadequate. And then I felt also grateful to be, prostrate within the shadow of that our musical culture collectively. The song was a big meditation. I thought, if I put this into that digital abyss, my own mother will get a text message before she gets through it. And she'll say, I loved it, darling. It was wonderful. And not really ever listen with intent.
Just 6.5 minutes. Just 6.5 minutes.
Which is, poison in our minds right now to think, I got to listen to something for 6.5 minutes. And I sat on it for months. And then I was driving over to Dave Brophy's house, my longtime partner, and I popped it on, like when we were going to start working on Boys Talking and planning that out. I popped it on, I burst into his house, I said, oh my gosh, we made something beautiful last year, and I'm just sitting on it. I wish I could play it for people, just one at a time. And I thought, hold on a second. I can do whatever I want. That's the artist's job, is to make us think differently. And the behavior that we're engaging in is dangerous, that we're just saying, I need more reach. I need to have people hear me all around the world, or I need an audience of millions. I need to be like Taylor Swift, or I need to be like Metallica. It's just not true, first of all. And so I said, I'm going to put this on a portable CD player with headphones like you and I are wearing right now. People pay $10 to listen to it one time in their life. It's not on a record of mine. I'll never play it live, and it's not online anywhere. It actually just exists on this CD player right down there. And then this book travels with it. And people, if they want, when they listen, they write in this book, they leave notes. If they'd like, there's about 6 or 7 different languages in it. I haven't read them. I'm not reading them.
You haven't read the notes?
No.
Why not?
I'm having other artists, friends, read them on camera. Joni Mitchell has found out about this. And then I got an email from Graham Nash's manager saying, send it to us. We'll send it to Joni's team. I said, I can't send the MP3. I can send... how many emails a day is Joni Mitchell's team getting about somebody who wrote a song that's inspired by her? I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to fill the book, and hopefully one day I get to bring it to her. She'll hear about it again. Maybe they'll hear that he won't send the MP3 because
you'll have to go out there and play it for her.
And I'm protecting the process. I mean, what I'm seeing happen to people when they pay $10 to listen to something one time in their life is profoundly filling to the process of making it and writing it in a way that I've never felt. Being 2 hours north of Detroit, and someone who's never heard me before is weeping at the merch table. To some dude in Philly, he's like, that's cool, man. I'll see you next time. He doesn't care, as it should be, right? And letting people have a moment to themselves in this world that's only theirs, and not about ubiquity, and not about the measurement of someone else who's handing it to you.
So I can hear all the people listening right now who are thinking, this is what no musician has ever said. I'm exaggerating here, but most musicians want to be out in front of an audience. You said you don't need the Metallica reach, but a lot of people want that. They want the fame, they want the money, they want to look out at that mass of people who are having the interaction with their work. Has that never been of interest to you?
Well, it was. And there's a couple. I have the privilege of having kind of been there. Like one of the first things that happened to me was I was on CSI New York with Gary Sinise and playing my own song in a fictional TV show, playing myself. He just solved a murder and had to go get some steam off with his friend Will, who's playing in the club. And I had a panic attack when that aired. I was just really anxious, really, really anxious. But I also, I play with Eddie Vedder a lot. I get to play with all my heroes. I've done Farm Aid numbers of times. I get to do a lot of wonderful things, and I get to stand behind people and next to people on stage who have achieved what we're talking about. And I get to recognize that is not all it's sold it to be. And I'm really grateful for my career. I'm looking to build it, but I'm looking to build it in a fortifying way, in a strong way, in a true way. You know, the clubs I play are fantastic, and I go to all over the world, and I get to be with other people. It's how we measure success in this country is really backwards. I am truly successful, you know? It's a lot of work, but what isn't? And I'm doing it in a time where I'm full of sadness, anger, and fear.
I want to ask about that too. I assume you're talking about the time that we're in right now, a time of conflict and hate and war and murder. Have you found that your music and the experience as you're presenting it has changed since we really found ourselves immersed in everything we're experiencing right now?
Yeah. You know, this all started for me directly when the President of the United States descended an escalator. And I thought, maybe everything we're all doing isn't working if this guy's coming into the picture. And I needed to reassess everything I was doing, because I could pick up my phone right now and lobby complaints into my camera, throw it out on social media for days, you know, with whatever's my nerve endings are feeling right now. And I just don't know where that would get me. And then I'm in a fiduciary responsibility, if that's successful, to make sure I stay that way, or that stuff keeps happening, so that I have that platform. And so I've really dug deep into what what is my job with music? Not music. Music's intrinsic. Art is intrinsic in all of us. And anyone who hasn't found their art, whether it's gardening or fixing something, or dancing, things we might call art, that's a failure on our society, that we don't usher people towards their art form. So I know what mine is. That's the benefit. What's my job is connection, and a healthy connection, in fighting the atrophy that we're all experiencing right now in our cognitive design and how it's getting manipulated.
Well, Will Daly, thank you so much for being here. You're going to stick around because you have your $10 song project.
That's right.
Right here.
I got it right here.
You have the journal, you have the CD player.
Anyone who wants to hear it can come right up and do it.
Do you take all manner of money? Or just
all manner of money, yeah.
All right. Will Daly, thank you so much for being here. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Will Daly is an independent recording artist, performer, and producer. His latest album is Boys Talking, and this Saturday you can catch him at Meadow Hall at Groton Hill Music Center. To learn more, go to his website. That's willdaly.com. Well, coming up, start spreading the ooey gooey news. Somerville is gearing up for its annual What the Fluff Festival. The hometown invention that made lunchboxes legendary gets its own day of sticky celebration. That's next on The Culture Show.
The world's tallest bridge spans the Huajiang Grand Canyon in China. Despite the rugged terrain and remote location, constructing that bridge was a gift to the local economy.
It's basically China's stimulus checks.
It took only 3 years to build, and now it is ready to open. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. amrep.org. And Cambridge Savings Bank, where they are committed to your financial well-being, and community is at the core of everything they do. Cambridge Savings Bank, always you. More at cambridgesavings.com, member FDIC. And YW Boston, presenting Lead Boston, equipping professionals with knowledge and networks to support inclusive leadership in organizations and communities. 2026 applications open at ywboston.org/leadboston.
For the stories that take you deeper and the conversations that give you full context, subscribe to the GBH News YouTube channel. Just search for GBH News. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel. Every fall, Somerville celebrates one of its sweetest claims to fame, marshmallow fluff. First whipped up in the city more than a century ago, the sticky spread now inspires the annual What the Fluff Festival, a day of music, art, and all things gooey, honoring a homegrown invention that became a pantry staple. There's no harshing your mellow when you can marsh some mallow. The festival returns this Saturday in Union Square. Here to give us the ultimate overview is Jessica Eschleman, Executive Director of Union Square Main Streets. Welcome to The Culture Show.
Thanks for having me.
And right here on the desk we have fluff, because I have not had fluff probably since I was a child, and my mom was making the substance of my lunch boxes every day, so we'll do a little tasting. But for people who don't know fluff, and actually because of Kate and Max, our producers, I just learned today that fluff is not something that's outside of New England. I had no idea.
So Jared, it's this interesting phenomenon where either you know it and love it from your childhood like you and I do. We grew up in Massachusetts, it sounds like.
And they grew up in Arizona and Texas.
And then we're such a global community in the greater Boston area. So if you add to that the global members of our global community who are here for work or school or whatever, there's such a fascination about celebrating this condiment.
So, it's a condiment.
It is a sweet condiment.
So, what is fluff?
So, marshmallow fluff is a sweet, sticky treat full of just 4 ingredients, believe it or not. It was invented in Somerville in 1917, as you mentioned. It was invented by Archibald Query and his brother. They whipped up the recipe in their Somerville home, sold it door to door, and then a couple years later, the Durkee Mower Company purchased the recipe, and they've been producing it in their factory in Lynn ever since.
It started in a can. I think we have a picture of that if you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel or here at the library. I can't believe that this was in a can to begin with, and now this very iconic jar.
Well, I'd love to share that the Durkee Mower Company actually has a mini fluff museum at their factory. So they have the different types of jars and containers that this sweet treat has been in over the years.
So it's not amazing to me because I grew up, as you say, we both grew up loving it, so I understand why there's a festival. But have you pinpointed why this is so enduring and why people are so galvanized and will gather? Because you get tens of thousands of people who come to this.
That's right, and this year is our 20th annual, so there's quite a legacy happening now. And I would say it's a mixture of things. One, the personal connection that you either have, like we do, as we just said, the intrigue, if it's new to you. But people also just love Union Square itself. Recently, we were named 38th coolest neighborhood in the world, and in fact, the Time Out article mentioned when a community can gather around its local businesses, that makes a neighborhood very cool. And so when folks come to the festival, they're doing the normal festival things, 100 vendors, multiple stages, but the independently owned businesses that make our district so special also run fluff specials for about a whole week. So I think there's a combination of maybe you want to come and do something you can't do anywhere else, like play fluff jousting, fluff musical chairs.
Wait. We have to go through some of this. What is fluff jousting?
Thanks for slowing me down on that. So this all happens on our shenanigans stage. The festival itself is 2 to 4, and we cycle through a series of games. The stage is hosted by Archibald Query impersonator, again, the inventor of marshmallow fluff. Jousting is maybe one of the most popular. Imagine a low balance beam, and then 2 opponents. Each are given a pool noodle, large foam pool noodle. Dip both ends into a big tub of marshmallow fluff, get on to the balance beam, and then you get to battle your friend off.
But it's low to the ground, so no one's
off the ground.
Injured. So what are the other games? What else do we see happening?
Fluff musical chairs is quite popular, and as you might imagine, one of the chairs has a big pile of marshmallow fluff, so you will see quite a few festival goers walking around sticky and maybe smears of marshmallow fluff on the seat of their pants. Limbo is another very popular fluff game, so we slather that limbo bar with fluff, and people continue to go under until they miss, and they get to proudly walk around the festival with marshmallow fluff all over their front of their shirt. And we close out the shenanigan stage at the very end, believe it or not, hairdo contest. So Teddy Peanut Butter donates, Durkee Mower donates, and then teams will group up, and you have a stylist and you have the stylee, and You get a few minutes to be able to put the marshmallow fluff, the peanut butter in your hair, however wildly and creatively that you would like to, and then the audience votes by applause.
And is it sculpted like topiary, essentially?
You know, everybody does something a little bit different. One year we had Lisa Simpson hair, Marge Simpson hair, pardon me, where a marshmallow tub was actually placed on top of the head and then the hair wrapped around with the marshmallow fluff as well.
So how much planning goes into this? So this is an extraordinary effort to have all of the businesses participate, to devise these games, to have sort of the drama and the entertainment all around fluff.
Thanks for asking that question. This festival is produced in partnership by Union Square Main Streets, the nonprofit that I lead, and the Somerville Arts Council. And we get to work in February every year, and we work diligently from February through October to plan for all the activities, the public art I haven't mentioned, but there's quite a bit of public art for people to interact with and co-create as well. And we have an amazing Fluff Fest coordinator on our team who is making sure all the details come together.
For people who haven't been to the square, describe what they'll find. And again, this was just heralded by Time Out as one of the best squares in the world.
38th coolest, in fact. So Union Square is very unique, and it is an incredibly diverse and interesting commercial district. So those who know the greater Boston area will likely remember that there was no subway service to Union Square for decades. And so we were about a mile from the Red Line, a mile from the Orange Line, and this means that commercial rents and residential rents were more accessible and affordable. And so we have this beautiful heritage of many, many international markets. We have 4 Mexican restaurants, 3 Peruvian restaurants, a German restaurant, several Japanese, lots of newcomers to America were able to hang a shingle and start a business. And this created a very unique commercial district where independently owned businesses rule the square and make it a special place to visit in a place that you can't find anywhere else in the world.
And clearly has recognized the value of bringing people together, marketing it, having festivals, to have your job. I mean, this is something, is it a model on something else or something you're modeling for other people at this point, other geographic regions?
We are a Main Street program, which I'm not sure if you and your listeners are familiar, but that's a national model. And so we are actually taking a page from the playbook from the National Trust of Historic Preservation that says, tell the story of your community. Celebrate what makes your community special. Don't try to be other communities. And that is what we have set to do with Marshmallow Fluff. I should mention when it was discovered, the history of Marshmallow Fluff, it was coinciding at a time where there was a lot of interest in lab buildings. You may know Greentown Labs is the largest green tech incubator in North America, which is home. It has its home in Union Square as well. So there is a play on celebration on the spirit of innovation. So that's what makes Union Square so special as well. And if you've been to the square, many know us as a wacky left of center type of community where we like to do things that are unique, unexpected, and wildly fun.
Has the tea coming to Union Square change things? Because we often know what that can bring. It can also sometimes bring gentrification and popularity where rents go up. How is it settling with the tea arrival?
You're exactly right, and we're seeing some benefits and we're seeing some challenges for sure. Benefit is people can just hop on the Green Line and come right from Boston, often in a single-seat ride to the heart of Union Square, and then also our rents are rising. So our nonprofit is working quite a bit with technical assistance and hands-on support, helping to negotiate leases, helping to build out business plans, marketing plans, to keep those businesses that are unique where they deserve to be.
For people just tuning in, I'm speaking with Jessica Eschliman, Executive Director of Union Square Main Streets. We're talking about the What the Fluff Festival happening this Saturday in Union Square. How often do you have fluff?
Personally,
yes.
How often do I? It really
think carefully about your answer.
Yeah, it will change throughout the year. A fluffernutter is great, and if one is on hand, I'm going to eat it. I also like to drop a little bit of fluff in hot chocolate. I don't know if that's something you did after sledding as a kid, but that was a core memory that I have.
I think a little bit. So people, I understand, experiment too. So we're putting some strange food pairing, in my mind, strange food, I hate to cast aspersions on anything, but different food, exotic food pairings with fluff. What do we find happening in the festival?
Maybe we'll call them unexpected.
Right.
Since the What the Fluff Festival is full of the unexpected, many of our brick and mortar businesses will run a special for the whole week, and we have a great variety this year. Some are along the lines that you might expect. El Potro Mexican Bar and Grill does fluff churros, for example, so that's a natural, you would imagine, dipping something sweet into a sweet dip. We have Souse, who is going to make a strawberry fluff Rice Krispie treat with a special fluff raspberry sauce. Himalayan Kitchen makes fluff momos. This year they're doing it with apple and graham crackers, so a real fall flavor mixed in there, as well as fluff mango lassies. We will also have fluff tattoos available. That's not something you can eat, of course, but I do want to mention it because not many people expect that you would become inked, tattooed with something forever and permanent. But Chameleon Tattoo offered a variety of pre-drawn, pre-designed tattoos, and believe it or not, 8 people got tattooed last year in the week of Fluff Festival, and that really actually led to our theme this year of Forever Fluff. We realized we've had fluff proposals, we've had fluff weddings during the festival, tattoos, so it's really a way of life for us. Of course, you can drink it with beer. There's Union Tavern will have a pumpkin beer with a cinnamon rim and lots of cocktails as well. But fluff empanadas is another one. You can stop into Buenos for their Elvis empanada, and Machu Picchu will also have a fluff empanada this year.
What do you think has made this so enduring that it's never, in these more than 100 years now, fallen out of favor, or has it fallen out of favor and come back?
Well, I would need to ask the Jerky Mower Company to get a little bit more stats on that.
I'm not suggesting you're 100 years old.
But I do know that there is a story. I've been in my role for about 8 years, but the founder of the festival, Mimi Graney, who also literally wrote a book about marshmallow fluff, let me know that it was a couple years after this festival got started that Jerky Mower said, oh, we've noticed that there's a large uptick in demand in September, corresponding with the actual festival. So whether it's businesses buying, folks at home buying, or just the general appeal and people go out to find it themselves, it definitely does bump up each September, we're told.
Well, for first timers, how would you suggest, in the final few seconds we have, how would you suggest they embark on the festival to get the most out of it?
First, you want to take public transit, you want to walk, you want to ride, you want to do anything but drive your car to Union Square if at all possible. Second, you want to get on flufffestival.com. It's the website that will give you the names of the 100+ vendors, the specials that I mentioned, the main stage lineup of our amazing performers, as well as those fluff games on the shenanigans stage, and also get involved with our social media. The Fluff Instagram channel is such a blast, and so many of the attendees, again, we're expecting more than 20,000 really interact. So I know you're going to taste some fluff right now.
This is going to be probably the first fluff I have had since I was a child.
So let's see. Oh, and there's a smile. There's a smile.
It holds up. Because I'm pretty honest. Just ask the fairy bread that we had at one point. I was honest, that was not good. Fluff, good.
Well, I just saw the smile, and that does tell the truth. And I also want to take a moment and express my sweet appreciation to GBH. You guys are an underwriter this year. You're helping to make the festival possible. So thank you to your team, Jared, for being a partner and keeping Somerville unique and special.
And I will point out we keep separation of church and state. I didn't even know we were a sponsor until you sat down today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Jessica Eschliman is the Executive Director of Union Square Main Street. The annual What the Fluff Festival is this Saturday in Union Square. To learn more, go to flufffestival.com. I'm Jared Bowen. Thank you for being here at the library today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH